Okay, so with that, welcome everybody. Thank you. This is a long and hairy road, but here we are. It is 6:13 on Tuesday, July 27th. Welcome to Manhattan Community Board One's first hybrid full board meeting. We will be making mistakes, we will be learning lessons, and that is a goal, not a problem. So keep your feedback. I want to hear all of it after the meeting, both public, board members, everybody. Feel free to send us thoughts, comments, and suggestions. We are working within the laws that we have. If we could change them, I'm sure many of us would change with various things. But here we are. We start with our public session, and pursuant to the new procedures that we do after the public session, we'll start the business session where no public members are eligible to participate unless you're called specifically by the chair. We will have our elected officials speak during that time, and I know that our Manhattan President Gail Brewer we're in her offices and she's here tonight, so she will probably join us. All righty, and then we hit the session. So we have at the moment 40 people who have signed up to speak for the public session. Because of the bulk of people who are speaking.
No, eso mío, tú tienes que exhibirte.
Lucy, I can hear you. Lucy, please mute yourself. Okay, because of the bulk of people, and our public session is not a hearing, it's just a public session, everyone gets one due to the size and quantity. All righty, so we're gonna go this way. We are gonna start with Christopher Marte, and then after Chris is gonna go Adrian Andy Sassoon, Linda Roche, Michael Kramer. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. After that, it will be Jonathan Boulware, Jessica Walker, Samuel Zimmerman. All right, let's who's ever got host controls, let's roll. Christopher Marte is first.
Tammy, I have them, but it's not allowing me to share anything. Sorry. So you're gonna have to use the timer on your own over there.
That's okay, we can do that. Jen's got the timer and Alice. All right, Chris, welcome. 1 minute, take it away. Let's see.
Got it.
Got it?
Can you hear me?
And Chris, thank you.
Awesome, thank you. 1 minute, right?
1 minute, please. Thank you.
My name is Christopher Marte. I'm the state committee member of the 65th Assembly District and the Democratic nominee for City Council. I am speaking in strong opposition to the ULURP and other actions in regards to the 250 Water Street site development. It's just not the structure itself, but this development process that demonstrates how Howard Hughes wants exception to every rule and to move forward with this project no matter the cost to their neighbors. In previous community boards and LPC hearings, I voiced my opposition to the developers wanting to break the Seaport Historic District, which was put in place by stakeholders and the community board in 2013 to allow for development, but also to keep the historic nature of the Seaport alive and thriving. Today, I'm here to voice my concerns on the methods the developer is using and abusing in order to profit even more from this special community. The demapping of public New York City streets and the transfer of air rights should not be used to help developers turn a bigger profit. Howard Hughes has no right to control all the land and air within the Seaport. And we don't want another Hudson Yards where one developer has a monopoly over a neighborhood. Lower Manhattan thrives because of its diversity, and Howard Hughes is trying to take that away in the Seaport. The DEIS that was released demonstrates a clear ignorance from the city and the developers in regards to the massive impact this project will have on the surrounding neighborhood. Light and shadow has an impact on the attention span of our children in the classroom. Increased traffic brought by this potential development can endanger our seniors and kids who currently enjoy the use of streets as public space. These two aspects alone show how deeply flawed the DEIS is and an unfortunate trend that we have seen repeated over and over throughout our district, from the Chinatown Jail to the Two Bridges Towers. Thank you for the Land Use Committee for creating such a strong resolution that represents the questions, demands, and frustration that our community has around this development. And I hope members of this community board wholeheartedly support their resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Adrian Andy Sosin, 1 minute. I apologize, we're working on our minute timers here.
Adrian?
Adrian, it might be Andy Sosin.
One Andy. and
Yeah,
ANDI.
ANDI.
That's it,
Okay.
perfect, that's it, that's all.
Andy, you're muted.
Hi, Andy, well,
I'm on mute. Okay, wait a second. And unmute myself? Can I
You're muted
unmute
now.
myself?
You're good. Oh, it's muted, so, oh, yeah.
Testament.
Andy, can you hear me? You're speaking now. Good.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
yes.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to say that I oppose, I greatly oppose this ULURP and the extension of the lease. I think that it's the wrong thing for this community. I think that it breaks too many precedents. Certainly it breaks up and removes an area from the historic district. And I don't think that the Howard Hughes Corporation is dealing with the community in good faith. I urge you to resolve against it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andy. Next is Linda Roche. After Linda will be Michael Kramer.
Linda,
Hi, thank you. I'm here. I want to talk about the air rights. The issue of buying the air rights at a dirt cheap price when other developers were interested and willing to pay a higher price with the total amount donated to the museum is a travesty orchestrated by the city, and I hold them responsible. And taking over public DMAP streets in order to monetize the historic district air rights, in my opinion, is greedy and dishonest. And why can Howard Hughes get away with it? It's because they have EDC, LPC, and CPC doing their bidding behind closed doors, and there is proof. Our Manhattan Borough President, just a few years earlier, is on record saying that development at 250 should not be higher than 120 feet. What happened? Oh yes, Howard Hughes dangled air right money for the museum in front of her, and so do we really know whether or not how much money is going to go to the museum? Will they ever receive it? No, we don't know that, do we? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Linda. Michael Kramer, you are next.
Hi, our Seaport Coalition has filed a lawsuit in May. It argues that the plan for 250 Water Street is approved by the Landmarks Preservation Commission violates the landmarks law, so much so that it does not in any way promote the primary purpose of the commission to promote preservation. It conflicts with the commission's own previous rejection of plans for as little as 10 stories. It disregards a central characteristic of the historic district. It's almost exclusively low-rise buildings and much more. We've got a dream team of lawyers. We've got Michael Gruen, who has been involved in preservation-related law in New York for decades, handled high-profile cases, including the battle to save Grand Central, the fight over Pier 55, the Little Island, creating favorable outcomes. An experienced land use lawyer from Boston named Saul Shapiro. Reed Super, who has represented nonprofit organizations, including the Sierra Club and the Water Creek Alliance, in public interest, environmental, and land use litigation for more than 25 years. We thank you for listening.
Thank you, Michael. Next, I believe it was Ricky Wong. Was it Ricky? Sorry, that spreadsheet just went boom.
Ricky, you're unmuted.
Yep, I'm here. I can't get the video to work though, but I can speak. I'm Ricky Wong, Director of Community Relations for HHC. I'm personally connected to this part of the city and I'm in contact with members of the Seaport community every single day. Many of you have seen me and our team out in the community during this pandemic, delivering food or PPE or making sure we are reopening our community safely with compelling cultural and arts events and keeping up momentum and lifting morale as our artists and small businesses continue doing what they do best. I can say for myself and the entire team at HHC that we are dedicated to the Seaport and to those who live and work here. The 250 Water Street plan has been benefited greatly from the stakeholder engagement process and over the course of the comprehensive public review process thus far. The HHC and SOM team has worked hard to be responsive to the community, our elected officials, community board, and the LPC in refining the proposal. The plan has a strong support of a broad coalition, including local residents, local business owners, preservationists like the Landmarks Conservancy, pro-housing advocates, cultural organizations, and civic groups. Our supporters include the Downtown Alliance, the Partnership for the City of New York, the Building Congress, and the Waterfront Alliance, and many more. More than 1,000 supporters have submitted comments to the LPC in favor of the plan. New York Times architect and urban planning columnist Michael Kimmelman has written enthusiastically in support of this project, and it's no small feat for a project to be endorsed.
Ricky, I'm sorry to mute you. You went over a minute. Tammy, the list is back up.
Next is Jonathan Bulwer.
Jonathan, are you present here?
No.
Okay. Where? Jonathan, Bulwer. I see you, Jonathan. You're unmuted now.
Good. I muted myself again. Good evening, Chair Meltzer, members of Community Board 1, friends and neighbors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm Jonathan Bulwer. I serve as president of South Street Seaport Museum. And as you know, we have been supportive of this project. Founded, 54 years ago in 1967, the Seaport Museum saved the district from the wrecking ball in the first instance. The formation of the district, which was intended to use the very mechanism proposed here for the very purpose proposed, is to provide essential funding for the Seaport's beating heart, the Seaport Museum. Now, look, I want to recognize that people will look at the same set of data and reach different conclusions. Among this community board and here in the community are friends, neighbors, supporters of the museum, and underlying the strong feelings around this matter is a common love of the Seaport, a place I've loved since I was a kid, that I feel privileged to live in with my family. And while there have been some missteps in this, I also appreciate the reasonable dialogue that has shown itself during the process. So yes, as a resident, as the head of the museum, I do support this, understanding that there's a plurality of opinion, and I urge you to support it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. After Jonathan is Samuel Zimmerman.
Samuel Zimmerman, I've unmuted you. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. My name is Sam. I live on East Broadway in the Lower East Side. I'd love to be there with you in person, but it's difficult to attend a meeting at 6 p.m. on a weekday due to work, so I thank this community board for making this accessible remotely. I strongly support the proposal to develop the building at 250 Water Street, which will provide desperately needed affordable housing in this neighborhood. In fact, I can see 250 Water Street from my apartment. I'm enthusiastic to watch the building go up. The lack of housing, in particular affordable housing, is the biggest problem the city faces today. So any opportunity to turn a parking lot into housing needs to be taken. The project has already been downsized and lost badly needed housing units as a result of the landmark process. We can't afford to lose any more. I walk through the Seaport regularly, and the parking lot is a blight on the area. It breaks up the area, is out of context with both the financial district on one side and the Seaport on the other. Replacing it with housing is an enormous improvement. I urge the community board to support any actions necessary to make this development possible. Thank you.
Okay, so that was 1, 2.
Going 44.
Scott Dwyer, and then after is Megan Malvern, Emily. Jessica.
Dwyer, you're unmuted.
Thank you. My name is Scott Dwyer. I'm representing Sons of the Revolution in the state of New York, who own and operate Francis Tavern Museum, also in Lower Manhattan, a short walk from the South Street Seaport, a historic site dating to 1719 and a museum which opened in 1907. We strongly support the proposal to develop a mixed-use building at 250 Water that will, among many other things, replace an unsightly parking lot and make possible significant funding for the imperiled South Street Seaport Museum, an essential component and an anchor of the historic district, allowing it to restore and reopen its historic buildings and plan for future expansion. After a lengthy process, the current design approved by the Landmarks Preservation Commission will transform the lot and enhance the neighborhood and the historic district. We urge this body to support the land use actions necessary to make this development possible. Thank you.
Okay, next on the plate is Megan Malvern, and then Jessica Walker.
Malvern, you are now muted. Hi, Megan.
Can you turn off the AC? I'm really cold.
All right, well, we'll try.
We'll come back to you in a second,
We'll
Megan.
come back to Megan. Go to Emily House.
Hi, Emily, you're unmuted.
Emily?
Oh, yes, I'm here. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to, again, thank Community Board one, for all of their hard work, and say that I absolutely agree with the very strong land use resolution that they prepared, and to say that it is really time that we get back to the seaport being the seaport. It is an extreme asset to our city as a piece of history, but also just public space. And I believe that we really need to start saying that developers should also play by the rules that we all have to abide by. So thank you so much for the Land Use Committee for all their hard work, and to the continued support of Community Board 1. I hope you will all vote in favor of this recommendation.
Thank you, Emily. Megan Malvern.
Megan, you're muted.
This is part of why we think hybrid's really important.
Yeah, we missed out
because-
this, yeah. This is great. Megan, you're on your way? I think she is.
All right, we'll come back to Megan Malvern. Let's do Jessica Walker.
If someone has her number, if they would text her or something. Jessica Walker, I'm gonna unmute you now.
Hi, good evening. This is Jessica Walker. I'm the president and CEO of the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce. We're a nonprofit organization that represents and supports the business community across the borough. And as you can imagine, our focus right now is on accelerating New York City's economic recovery in the wake of the COVID crisis. To that end, we enthusiastically support the reworked application before you for the 250 Water Street application. This project would play a critical role in the city's recovery. First, the project would support the expansion of the South Street Seaport Museum, which is a potential anchor destination in the neighborhood that could really help us regain the record tourism which the city and its small businesses have come to rely upon. In addition, this project's mixed-use configuration is increasingly ideal for the borough. What we're seeing in Midtown is that because it's so densely commercial, foot traffic is down 50% because of the lack of office workers. So the fact that there's just too little residential use there. So we really do need more projects like 250 Water Street to provide a diverse mix of uses that stabilize neighborhoods. And finally, I just want to note, that it's very rare to see a project that worked this hard to be this creative, to really incorporate the feedback of the LPC and the local community.
Thank you. Sorry. I apologize if you can't hear the timers, but if you are online and the timer rings, I'm basically counting close to 10 and then cutting people off. I'm trying to be as fair and equitable because we have so many. All right, I apologize, but we're going along. All right, so from there, we're going to go to James Kaplan, Alan Millman, Melanie Walker, and then we're going to try Megan Malvern again.
James Kaplan, you're 1 minute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Loudly.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Maybe you can't hear us.
All right.
James, we hear you just fine. You go right ahead.
Probably muted himself. Yes, President. And as I've spoken before, I think in my youth, I'm probably older than most of you, the South Street Seaport Museum was the center. It was the center of the recovery of the city in the 70s and the 80s. What I didn't mention was the Pier 15 and the great concerts. I remember Pete Seeger, Joan Baez. I remember Oscar Brand, the great Seaport singer. But for all these things, from what I can see, have been lost in the last 13 years. There are very few concerts until 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, our organization led on July 4th, the July 4th parade. It was led by Alan Millman, who'll be speaking soon, Scott Dwyer for the Sons of the Revolution, and many others. But we ended at Pier 16, where Linda Russell, you may not have heard of Linda Russell as much as I have, but I can tell you she's equal to Pete Seeger, and if you look at our website. And it seemed to me, it reminded me of the past 30 or 40 years ago, but it also looked to me to the future of what we can be, the future of a great cultural center here on the Seaport, the future of many of these great
James, thank you very much.
What's his position? He likes concerts.
Keep on going. Alan Millman,
And I strongly support the HAC proposal to develop a mixed-use building at 250 Water Street. I urge this body to support the land use action necessary to make this development possible. New York City desperately needs more projects like this one, which encourages investment and economic development in a time when many thousands of people and businesses are exiting New York, especially Manhattan. This proposal offers a vital and timely opportunity to bring affordable housing, jobs, and economic development to Lower Manhattan, excuse me, when it is most urgently needed in the context of the city's ongoing economic recovery. Parking lot at 250 Water Street has been an unsightly gap in the urban fabric for over 5 decades. This design, approved by the NYC Landmark Preservation Commission, will transform the lot and enhance the neighborhood and the historic district. The plan is the product of a lengthy stakeholder engagement process, and over the course of the public review process, the Howard Hughes Corporation at Skidmore, Owings and Merrill, one of the most prestigious and talented architectural design firms in the world, has done a yeoman's job to accommodate all parties. The plan has the strong support of the local city council member, Margaret Chin, Manhattan Borough.
Okay, that's 1 minute.
okay, thank you very much. Melanie, and it's spelled Mellonee Walker, or it might say Asha Center.
I'm not seeing a Walker or a Mellon.
Okay, moving along, if you can find her. See, was somebody able to get a hold of Megan Melbourne? Okay. All right, we'll come back to her. Roland Lewis?
Roland Lewis, okay. Roland Lewis, once I unmute you, you can just start talking, but just wait. You have 1 minute.
Hi, Roland Lewis. Good evening, everybody. Former head of the waterfront, and as such, I fought Howard Hughes Corporation over their tin building and defeated them on that project, but I strongly support the 250 water development. I actually steered at that vacant lot for over 10 years in my former position. The project will support the museum, something we care deeply about, and I still care deeply about. It'll provide needed affordable housing for our city and needed economic development for our city. For all those reasons, I hope the community board will support this good project and do something much better than that vacant lot.
Thank you very much, Roland. Okay. Look at my assignments. Moving along, we should hear from Saul Sherrill himself.
Mr. Sherrill, you're unmuted.
Good evening. I'm Saul Sherrill, president of the Tri-State Region of the Howard Hughes Corporation. I want to thank Community Board 1 for your consideration of our project and the land use action necessary to bring it to fruition. In Manhattan Seaport neighborhood, my team at HHC has been dedicated to revitalizing our waterfront and delivering tangible benefits for this community and for the entire city. Over the past decade, we've worked to both preserve the Seaport's past, support its evolution, including refurbishing the 19th century buildings on Schermerhorn Row, reconstructing Pier 17, and restoring the beloved Tin Building. HHC has tried to be a good neighbor in the historic district, fostering a community spirit with diverse programming and supporting a broad range of local civic groups, social service organizations, and nonprofits. We've enthusiastically invested nearly $1 billion in the Seaport's progress, and our current projects have added almost 1,700 new jobs and generated almost $200 million of annual economic activity. Throughout the pandemic, we've took shoulder to shoulder with the community organizations, delivering food, families and seniors in need, getting PPP to our responders and others. The parking lot at 250 Water has been an unsightly gap in the urban fabric for over 5 decades. The 250 Water Street proposal would transform this service parking lot into a mixed-use development that will enhance the neighborhood and create a welcoming gateway to the South Street Seaport Historic District. This proposal, the design which is approved by the Landmarks Preservation Commission, offers a vital and timely opportunity to create permanent, deeply affordable housing in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Saul, I appreciate you as fast as I have ever heard you speak. So thank you for trying to get in. I apologize. All righty. So moving along, we're going to go to, apologize, we're just trying to go as fast as we can. Elaine Kennedy.
Is present? Yes.
Elaine is in the room, so we're gonna, so this is good because I'm gonna try and have some in-room people go first. All right, so it's Elaine Kennedy. You're next.
If you have a minute.
Maybe Elaine should come.
Does she walk over here?
Elaine, you have to come closer to the table so you can be heard.
Yeah, you're
Yes.
pretty far away.
Yeah, sorry. Like with right here, probably.
Oh,
would.
this one good.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll turn to you. I can't
Everybody,
tell.
I'm Elaine Kennedy. I'm
Elaine, you must,
Loud.
as if you were orating in a play, pretend to be Socrates and hit it.
Yeah.
There you go.
And speak to this.
Hi, I'm Elaine Kennedy. I am a Southbridge resident who, with my neighbors, have spent hundreds of unpaid hours fighting the Howard Hughes plan. We have almost 10,000 signatures, petition signatures. Pre-COVID, we turned out hundreds of my neighbors to meetings. We testified in front of this CV1 more than a dozen times, in front of the LPC and at the New York State DEC. We have meeting fatigue, so you won't hear many of us tonight, but we are your neighbors. Have no financial ties to HHC, and we thank you for your strong resolution against this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. David Sheldon.
Yes.
David, you're here. Great, thank you.
I'll be brief. Urge the board to pass the resolution proposed by its land use committee. I would like to ask this question. Why is the Economic Development Corporation determined to make hedge fund billionaire Bill Ackman richer? Because Ackman is the single largest principal stockholder in the Howard Hughes Corporation. I think he has enough money. I do not know when it was decided that the South Street Seaport Historic District should be repurposed and rededicated to the Howard Hughes Corporation's commercial interests. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go back online for a couple people. Do Paul Hovitz, Christy Hoos, Huus, if you can find her. And then after that, Megan Melbourne.
Paul, I'm unmuting you now. 1 minute, please.
Okay, thank you. I'm Paul Hovitz, former vice chair of Community Board 1. And I want to thank Tammy and Alice for their superb leadership. Save Our Seaport was created to save our Seaport Museum. If the Howard Hughes plan, which Landmarks has approved, doesn't go forward, we will still have 160-foot development as of right. Zoning allows 120 feet and 40 feet additional due to the flood zone. If we go with as of right, we lose the museum, 70 affordable housing units, and any hope to rebuild the New Market Pier, which will fall into the river. If we do allow the development as Landmarks approved, the museum gets millions of dollars as an endowment to bring it into the digital age and continues as the invaluable linchpin of the district. So we allow a partial application of historic air rights within the historic district, gain affordable housing, save the Seaport Museum.
Sorry, Paul. We're holding firm. Next, Christy Huus. I apologize. I do not know how to appropriately pronounce your name.
I do not see Christy Hoos.
Okay, so without Christy, Megan Melbourne, are you back?
I believe she is. Let's see. Megan, you're now muted.
Hi,
Hi, Megan.
my apologies. My kids are sick and I'm running double duty. And anyway, I am calling in tonight to testify about just the strength of this resolution in opposition to the Howard Hughes ULURP action for 250 Water Street. I've lived in the neighborhood for more than a dozen years. I am the co-president of the PTA of the school that's directly across the street. Aside from Southbridge and Blue School and the families right there, I don't know if there's another more sensitive community that will be so greatly adversely impacted by this oversized land grab. And I also co-founded Children First, and there are hundreds and hundreds of families and teachers who are standing side by side, shoulder to shoulder against this project. And I commend the community board for their strong resolution this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan, very much. I believe Is Joanne Gorman with us? Joanne's in the room. Welcome, Joanne. Please step as close to the mic as you can at the table. And again, like your Socrates, be a great orator.
I'm Joanne Gorman, I'm with the Seaport Coalition. There's been a lot of testimony, both written and spoken, on the Howard Hughes Corp's proposed development plans for 250 Water. You've seen images from Howard Hughes SOM team of a tower that supposedly will be unbuilt and unseen as it fades into the sky above and into the backdrop of the skyscrapers of Lower Manhattan, where it actually would be appropriate. Today, the Seaport Coalition's testimony is a visual reference to the portion of the South Street Seaport. HHC's proposed 320 is superimposed on the current or the parking lot. The staff will consider so that you'll never have to look back and say, I didn't understand the impact on the seaport. As HHC pursues all the additional land use approvals it needs, it is important to keep in mind that the LPC decision to approve this current design is under legal challenge, and that would not be the last of the challenges to this current design. Thank you.
Joanne, thank you very much. It's actually very difficult to hear you if you are in the room and you are not speaking as loud as I am, and I am a pain. I get that because I'm very loud. But then the people who are in the public realm cannot hear you well. So I need to remind you of all of that again, because when you come to the mic, don't be afraid, just belt it out. Okay? All right. From that point, we're going to go.
Can I just ask a quick question? That model there is what they're talking about? Because
Since this is part of her public testimony, I would actually, and we've seen other things, I have no issues if they pick that up and stick that closer to the cameras.
Or maybe
And
the
if you
people
can,
on that side just talk and the camera turns to it.
well, you'd have to actually move
Yeah,
it.
no, we're
No,
not
we're
touching any cameras.
Moving the camera.
No.
So it's about moving the model to the table. And if there's anybody over there who wants to do that, to show.
Wait, hold on, wait, everyone. Maybe the members, if they're inclined, can go and take a look at it, because otherwise, somebody log in on your phone and I'll make you a panelist and you can like turn it on or something. I don't know, but I really, there's too much stuff on these tables to move that model, honestly.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe the camera would catch the picture. Not so much.
Yeah. There's a lot of people who want to drop a
But you know what we can do? We can take a picture and include it.
Yes.
During the video. We can insert that in the video.
Thank you. Sorry, Tim.
That's okay. Gotcha. And if any board member wants to get up and see it, it's right over there.
Okay.
All right, moving along, because we still have many other people. All right, we're, Roger Byram. David Karnofsky is also from HHC. Mariama, you're in the room. We'll do you after that. And then William Thomas.
Roger, you can begin when you're ready. 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. Roger Byram, a longtime member of the board and now a public member. I just want to commend the Land Use Committee for the excellent resolution that they've prepared this evening and encourage the board to support that. Howard Hughes was part of the Seaport Working Group and knew of the protocol of maintaining 121-foot building height. And so when they bought the property, they knew what they were letting themselves in for. I think the strong resolution is terrific, and I hope everybody will support it. Thank you.
Okay. Roger, next, David Karnofsky. David's with Howard Hughes, and he's one of the applicants. I'm not sure.
David, I'm going to unmute you now. 1 minute.
Thank you, David Karnofsky, Land Use Council to HHC. I want to address aspects of the draft resolution on 250 Water. In advance of its July 12th meeting, the Land Use Committee asked HHC to respond to questions regarding the application. HHC did so, and it provided additional information at the meeting itself. But the information provided by HHC was not taken into account in the resolution drafted in advance of the meeting, presupposed answers to the very questions the committee had asked HHC to address. An example is how the resolution addresses the demapped streets proposed to be included in the large scale. The committee asked HHC to provide written answers to no less than 5 questions about this. These questions were answered in detail, with HHC explaining that use of the streets is governed by a series of restrictions and controls, none of which will be altered as a result of the 250 Water Street project. Yet the draft resolution makes repeated statements about the DMAP streets, such as that they should not be used to give HHC greater control over this important street grid. The resolution asserts that the HHC proposal violates the purpose of the Seaport Transfer Mechanism, which it says was to transfer development rights to sites outside the historic district. In fact, the Seaport Transfer Mechanism was enacted in 1972, 5 years before the creation of the district, the historic district.
David, thank you very much. I apologize. Mariama, you're next. Again, 1 minute in the room. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mariama. I'm a member of the board. I missed last night's meeting for the environmental committee. I had a conflicting meeting, so I wanted to say what I would have said here tonight. I was a parent at 234 when the building that houses the Whole Foods and downtown community centers went up. I was a parent at IS 89 at that time as well. And of course, I was concerned with noise and dust and everything else that comes with construction and fought hard against those things. So I understand what you parents are going through. Whether the building is as of right or taller, you're still going to have those problems. So those are the things that I wanted to speak to. You can and should make sure that you get filters and soundproofing and any everything that you can for your children out of whatever deal goes through ultimately. Also, I wanted to, well, wait a minute, in fairness, I should say, we also fought and had that building shortened to protect the parks and the plants. The parks and the plants are fine, although other buildings went up after that are much taller. I hope about 1 minute to remind everybody that just in case you leave before I speak later, the 29th, 2 days from now, is the deadline for those of you that need to apply for the VCF in time. That would be people who, if you have a loved one that you believe passed of a 9/11 related condition, you are grandfathered in through the 29th of July. You need to go ahead and register. Registering is signing your name, your address, and your phone number, and you can worry about the rest later. You don't have to file a claim at that time. Also, if you were certified years ago and never registered and never attempted to do anything, you just certified with the health program, you also need to register with the VCF by Thursday.
You have to do it during quality of life.
Yeah, but people may leave because they're here for this. That's why I just want to throw it in. I'm done.
Don't worry. I'm gonna make you repeat all that just in case you're wondering. All right, thank you, Mariama. Who did I say was next? Thomas, William Thomas. He is online.
William Thomas, I'm unmuting you now. 1 minute.
From Open New York.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Beautiful. So hi, everyone. My name is William Thomas. I'm here to support the proposal as the executive director of Open New York, an independent grassroots pro-housing organization. I would specifically like to ask the community board to consider the human impacts of opposing the project and to reconsider their resolution against it. New York is suffering an immense and terrible housing crisis, especially after weathering a global pandemic. Homelessness is at the highest rate since the Great Depression. There are 70 badly needed affordable homes in this proposal, and I want the community board to understand that denying this project is quite literally telling those 70 families that they're not welcome here and they ought to live somewhere else. The market rate homes are also badly needed, but given time constraints, I would like to point something else out. As I understand it, the main thrust of the resolution we're talking about tonight was written by a CB member who owns property in Southbridge Towers, who stands to lose river views and thus potentially thousands of dollars in their property value. I think that's a humongous conflict of interest for the community board, and I'm troubled that we've gotten this far in the process without any sort of self-reflection about or recusement from conflicted members. You should bring this resolution back to the drawing board simply on that front. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Robert's Rules of Orders, and this goes for people on the public and in the room. We do not insult board members. You watch your language. There are no personal attacks, period. End of statement. Everybody got it? Moving on. All right. You know what? It's ridiculous anyway. Cyrus Gentry, Neil Flaherty, are next.
Cyrus, I'm unmuting you now. 1 minute.
And he doesn't need to ever come back to it.
Cyrus, you're unmuted.
Great. My name is Cyrus Gentry. I've been a member of the board of the South Street Seaport Museum since 2019, but my family and grandfather, Jacobus Branson, the founding chairman of the museum, have been involved since inception. I believe I speak for all of us, certainly all of the board, when I say that I'm worried about what our neighborhood would be without this critical institution telling our story. This is the most historic part of this entire city. Without the museum, that history will have no home. I would rather support a plan that delivers us a mixed-use development downtown and secures a future for this iconic institution than no museum and the preservation of a parking lot. This bold investment in our district is what makes this proposal appropriate and urgent. This is a rare opportunity to save an irreplaceable historic institution. I'm proud to stand with the museum, and I hope you'll join me too. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your brevity. Appreciate that. Okay, did you get who I was going to call? Neil Flaherty. Thank you. That's spreadsheet. Correct. Neil?
Neil, you're unmuted. 1 minute.
My name is Neil Flaherty. I'm testifying in support of the 250 Water Street plan. I've been part of this community since 1967 and started volunteering at the Seaport Museum in 1981. The museum is more than just about ships. It connects us to our city's history and the people who built it. The ships are an incredible asset for our city, but so are the rest of its collections, the maps and historic artifacts, not to mention all the bygone skills and culture it helps keep alive. These are resources that should be available for all. The museum has faced trying times with 9/11, the 2008 financial crisis, Hurricane Sandy, and now COVID. Without the 250 Water Street project and the financial support it will bring, the museum will not survive this catastrophe. We're at a crossroads and can choose to support this crucial cultural gem or not. I say we must. The project will provide the financial stability that the museum needs and deserves. I ask you to support the Seaport Museum and this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. Next person is Michael Leslie. And again, much like has been said before, please, when you unmute yourself, say where you're from. It would be appreciated.
Wesley or Leslie with a W?
Leslie.
With an L?
Yep.
Oh, yes.
And if he's not there, we're moving on.
Yep. No, I don't see him.
Fantastic. Susan Murray.
Okay. Susan Murray, I'm unmuting you. 1 minute.
Yes, good evening. Thank you. My name is Susan Murray, and I am supporting the 250 Water Street project. Since the early 1980s, I volunteered at South Street Seaport Museum. I love to help preserve the places and things from the past. As a volunteer, I've also met many visitors from all over the country and the world. Our visitors are fascinated by the ships and buildings, but most of all, they make all kinds of connections to the people of the past. There's definitely a connection to the sailors aboard the Wavertree, and people always ask about how they lived on board. I've often seen visitors go up to the cargo route map and pick out places with a special meaning that's a meaning to them personally. On Ambrose Lightship, the visitors relate to the fact that immigrants crossing the Atlantic to New York saw the Ambrose Light even before the Statue of Liberty's beam. If people sail on the Pioneer, they get to feel the power of the air currents and water currents, and they can even help set a sail. And if they go on the W.O. Decker, they learn about tugs, and tugs are still the boats that are the workhorses of the harbor. The South Street Seaport Museum is a unique and irreplaceable part of the historic district. Its survival depends on the development plan.
Thank you very, very much for your testimony and for participating. Let's keep going along. Adam Meister, he's part of the applicant team. There's a couple who have said that if needed, I'm going to say they're not needed because they offered the option.
Adam Meister, I'm unmuting you. 1 minute.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm Adam Meister, Senior Vice President with Howard Hughes. I'm going to speak briefly about some of the key merits of our 250 Water Street proposal. In New York City, there's an urgent need for housing, especially affordable housing. And in CB1, where the average income is more than $150,000 a year, only a fraction of the housing is affordable. As we continue the interior design of the proposed building, we expect the plan will provide about 300 total apartments, of which approximately 80 will be permanently affordable to families with incomes averaging 40% of the area median income, or about $45,000 a year for a family of 4. Our proposal for 250 Water Street also includes much-needed community space to be programmed in consultation with community stakeholders. Located near one of New York City's largest hubs for mass transit, the proposed building will provide healthy and sustainable office space and homes near excellent public schools and Lower Manhattan's deep base of employment. In addition, the building's design will strengthen and enhance the historic district, activate the streetscape, and improve neighborhood safety while providing more New Yorkers with access to this area's wonderful waterfront open spaces. New York City needs economic development now more than ever. Our plan.
Okay, thank you very much, Adam. So sorry. Moving on. Another part of the applicant team, Keith O'Connor.
Keith O'Connor, I'm unmuting you now. 1 minute, please.
My name is Keith O'Connor. I'm Director of Urban Design and Planning at SOM. A few words about the design of the proposed building that will fill a gap in the historic district, reinforcing its boundaries and activating its streets. The design's a nuanced response to the narrow and wide streets surrounding the site and includes generous setbacks and a richly detailed facade. It's worth noting that HHC is firmly committed to building in a sustainable and resilient manner throughout the seaport. They rebuilt Pier 17 above the 100-year floodplain, elevated and reconstructed the Tin Building, and both of these buildings are LEED certified. For its part, 250 Water is being designed to meet or exceed regulatory requirements for resiliency and sustainability. It will comply with Local Law 97's operational carbon goals, and the project is currently targeting LEED Silver and aspiring to LEED Gold certification. Well-being has also been integral to our design. The project incorporates terraces and gardens on almost every floor, providing accessible outdoor spaces for residents and workers, offering views, and incorporating native plantings. The project will also employ flood mitigation measures, including elevating critical infrastructure above the design flood elevation, providing flood barriers, incorporating flood-resistant glazing, and utilizing wet and dry flood proofing. The project has been confirmed.
Thank you very much. Apologies. All right, Lisa Wong is next.
Lisa, we're unmuting you now. 1 minute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi. Thank you, CB1 and Tammy. I'm Lisa Wong. I live in Lower Manhattan 15 years. I've been doing residential real estate for 24 years. My son Talon sits on 2 committees of CB1, which I'm proud to say, and he just graduated from Millennium High School, where I was co-president of the PA for 3 years. I am strongly in favor of 250 Water Street. I think, on so many levels, it's a mosaic of office space, residential, community facility, affordable housing, support for the museum, and bringer of culture as well. So I just feel the key is really that it's mixed use and that it can become a new nexus for the neighborhood as 200 Chambers and 101 Warren was for Tribeca. I've seen how this kind of project can transform a neighborhood. And this is going to bring it from a graveyard to a garden, in my feeling. It'll bring energy and vigor.
Sorry, thank you very much. Most importantly, Lisa, for coming and participating and for loaning us your amazing son who's been on our board, Talon. Thank you. It's nice to know that advocacy runs in your family. There we go. All right, so moving along.
Not yet.
All right, Amelia Josephson and Colleen.
Amelia Josephson, I'm unmuting you. 1 minute. Amelia. You're unmuted now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Amelia Josephson and I work in CB1. I was excited to learn last week that my office on Broad Street will reopen on September 7th. I can't wait to be working in the neighborhood again, supporting local businesses and contributing to the recovery from the COVID economic downturn. I support the proposal for 250 Water Street because it will help bring new residents and increase vitality to the area, and because it includes much needed below market rate housing in a neighborhood that is out of reach for too many New Yorkers. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Perfect. Oh my God, I love people who want to speak briefly. Not this, sorry. Okay, Colleen Robertson.
I muted you. 1 minute.
Colleen.
Colleen, are you there?
No, I think she's good. That's fine.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Moving
Wait, Colleen, are you there?
Mhm. Fine.
Okay.
Okay. All right, I think we're gonna take a bit of a break from this a little bit, because we do have other people who are speaking about other topics, and it is already 7:04. Jill Goodkind, I believe, is in the room. Jill, same rules when you're in the room.
Not loudly. Okay. Many on this community board had the honor to work on affordable housing with my late husband, Tom Goodkind. May his memory be a call to action. Tom's work to make 5 World Trade Center 100% affordable goes back at least a decade, and the Coalition for an Affordable 5 World Trade Center is fighting right now to make it a reality. In 20 years, the LNDC and Port Authority have not created a single building of affordable housing. Instead, they plan to use our public land, purchased with our federal money, dedicated to the 9/11 community, to build an unneeded 80-story luxury rental tower. My understanding is that they have not provided this community board with the financial information requested months ago. I have to wonder if they obscure too much under the claim of ongoing negotiations with rich developers. This community board must demand that the LNDC and Port Authority immediately disclose this information. 5 World Trade Center, the last parcel on the site, is our opportunity to stop just talking about affordable housing and actually do something about it.
And Jill is one of our passionate public members.
Well done.
Well done, Jill. Thank you. On that note, for those of you who have joined us in the room, beyond my initial announcements, remember, unless you're actively talking or eating or drinking, you must be wearing a mask. These are not our sole rules. That is a rule for DCAS for this building. So we are gracious and happy to be here. Everybody's going to follow that.
Who needs one?
All right, moving along on the same topic, Todd Fine, I believe. Todd, are you in the room or online?
He's online.
All right, off we go.
All right, Todd, fine. I'm unmuting you. 1 minute.
Yes, hi, I'm Todd Fine. I'm the president of the Washington Street Advocacy Group. Nearly 3 months ago, the LMDC and the Empire State Development Corporation pledged to respond to questions regarding 5 World Trade Center that were submitted at a land use committee meeting. That meeting was actually curtailed specifically because of this potential to respond in writing. Now, 3 months later, not a single question has been addressed. Meanwhile, a community advisory committee process moves forward despite this massive disrespect of this community board. It is reaching a point where the community board, I believe, needs to make a statement about this disrespect and somehow prevent this community this committee from going on as it is now. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much, Todd. Moving on to Jill Pinto.
I have a Jody Pinto.
Jody, I apologize. That's so my bad. See, that's what happens to you speak. All right, Jody Pinto speaking on 124 Chambers Street.
Jody, you got muted. 1 minute, please.
All right. I'm Jody Pinto, a 40-year resident of the IMD at 124 Chambers Street. I'm an artist. I live and work at 124 on the 2nd floor, right above the space that was Echo Restaurant. A new applicant, Poseidon, is looking for later hours and a sidewalk presence under the current relaxed standards. My concern and my neighbor's concern in the building with the current application is noise. That's a capital N to go with that. The reasons are twofold. The hours suggested till 1 a.m. are much too late. 2 hours later than Echo, which closed at 11, and later than every other location on the block except for possibly the hotel. Mudville closes at 11 and the Patriot Bar at midnight. Secondly, this applicant, Poseidon, wants to maintain an outdoor seating area.
I am so sorry, Jody. We are holding to a minute each simply because we have so many people. Alrighty, I believe Bob Townley, do you want to speak during the public session?
Yep, I do. Off topic. It's great to see everybody, old friends, new friends. I say this with great reluctance and hesitation. This room is too small. I've been running programs for kids of essential workers since September. My staff has risked their lives. I've risked my life, so I'm not squeamish about this. But I do not take undue risks, and I still socially distance. This is spreading. We need to find another room for the next meeting, or I will personally not attend. I found a workaround for this meeting. I'm sitting out here. It's great. But I don't believe 50, 60 people should be in a space this small. And I have great reluctance and hesitation. I like to play it safe. And I think we should be playing it safe. And that's really all that's said.
Thank you, Bob. All right, so with that, I think, do I have anybody from the public who is in the room who I have not recognized? Perfect. With that, we're going to shut the public session. We do have a brief presentation of the Tunnel to Towers event by Susan Starr, Director of Event Operations. Keep in mind that it comes around every year. This, because due to COVID, we didn't have them come and do the presentations, so we are not caught unawares. We have her here today.
Okay. Hello there. Good evening. I'm Susan Starr, the Director of Special Events for the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. I'm joined tonight by Gina Della Ragione, who is Executive Vice President. We are delighted to be back and wish I could say to see your smiling faces, but at least we're all together tonight in some manner. Thanks so much for the opportunity to speak with you. It's been a while since we've seen you. I would like to briefly touch upon where we currently stand as a foundation. And as Tammy introduced, our annual New York City Run, which is always hosted the final Sunday in September, as per the City of New York, and that will be Sunday, September 26th this year. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Tunnel to Towers, we are a 501c3 not-for-profit started in memory of FDNY firefighter Stephen Siller. On September 11th, Stephen was 35 years old, a father of 5. He was off duty and on his way to play golf with his brothers when he found out on his scanner that the planes had hit the towers. So he turned around, went back to Squad 1 in Brooklyn, grabbed his gear out of his locker as the fire truck had already left, and he drove to the mouth of the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel at that time, which was closed for security reasons. He left his keys on the front seat of that truck, put 65 pounds of gear on his back, and ran through the tunnel to the towers, where he lost his life saving others. Hence the name Tunnel to Towers Foundation. The Siller family, the remaining 6 siblings, their philosophy, and the one that is embraced by all of us here at the foundation, is that it is better to light a candle than to curse the darkness, and that is our mission. Our signature event each year is our Tunnel to Towers Run, which retraces those final footsteps of firefighter Stephen Siller. At this time, I would like to share a brief video with you. I think that it will speak volumes more than I could possibly speak. It's just a couple of minutes, just under 3 minutes long. And are you able to?
Do you want me to share it?
If you can, or give us permission. Yeah.
I did, but I can try to share it. Hold on.
Thank you.
My brother, firefighter, just finished his night tour at Squadron.
It's not coming through the speakers.
No.
Can you give me a second?
Oh, goodness.
Lucian, while you're doing that, just ask to have, Tunnel to Towers contact information shared, at least with me.
We're gonna share it with everybody and,
Okay.
are coming in August.
Them specifically about 5 World Trade Center, affordable housing there, and the coalition. Really off topic, but yes.
All right. Are we
Well-
gonna move on from the video, do you think, Lucian?
Can you hear the sound, Susan?
Not really.
He ran into the South Tower.
Oh.
There it is. A little bit.
People, they gave up their lives. And when we lost,
It's on the screen.
to do something, we honor what he did.
Perhaps we should stop.
You're not happy with that?
For us.
Well, you can see some of the images.
Hear the music here low, so we can hear it.
But I think remotely, the people out there cannot hear it. That's the problem.
A plug for it, as someone
Susan,
who's
is that
done
enough?
it almost every year when I haven't been injured, it is an most amazing, moving 5K event, and it is a real tribute to Stephen Siller and all the people who died
Agreed.
in 9/11. So thank you for doing it.
Oh, thank you so much. So we'll move on from that video. Perhaps it's something you can share internally where it's 2 minutes and 47 seconds. I think it gives a wonderful introduction to the foundation and certainly to that event. So you can see the imagery for those who perhaps haven't had the opportunity to see it in person. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation has historically, we have 3 programs. There's our Smart Home program, which provides mortgage-free, custom-designed, high-tech homes for our nation's most catastrophically injured veterans. So typically that is triple and quadruple amputees returning home from war. We have our Gold Star Family program that provides mortgage-free homes for families left behind with small children, and our Fallen First Responder program, which is primarily servicing police departments and fire departments, those first responder families left behind with small children. In addition, what has happened since the last time I was in the room with you is that we have added a program that provides mortgage-free homes for the families of first responders who have died of 9/11 related illnesses with small children, which leads me to, it's my great pleasure to actually share with you. Tammy and I had a little bit of a conversation on this topic. This year we will be hosting a 9/12 live reading of the names. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the 9/11 live reading of the names that has been done for the past 19 years, 20 years at the 9/11 Memorial, and we were proud to host that last year. However, after much discussion and much thoughtfulness and all of these years, we are very proud to announce that we will be hosting a reading of the names of those who have died of 9/11 related illnesses, and that will be on 9/12, as that day we believe is symbolic of what has happened. With that said, we fully recognize that includes those who have lived or continue to live in your community and who have supported first responders, the cleanup, recovery, and rebuilding efforts. The purpose of this event is to recognize those souls lost after 9/11. And that said, we would like to invite you to read if you're interested in participating, and offline I'll share that information with Tammy, and this way it can be distributed to anybody on the board or anyone in your neighborhood. Moving on to the New York City Run. As I said, that 5K retraces the final footsteps of Stephen Siller through the tunnel to the towers. I hope that you agree this event is unifying, uplifting. It honors and remembers those lost while celebrating strength and resilience. So, you know, we of course like to stop to honor and remember, but we also like to celebrate that which has happened. Unifying, caring for each other, rebuilding strength and the spirit of New York and the spirit of all of us. I look forward to coming back to Community Board 1 with Gina in August, and we will be asking for your permission to repeat very much that which has been done year after year. So we will not be asking for any changes, any significant changes. I'm sure you're aware this is the 20th anniversary. We did lose a year due to COVID and are very excited to be back with you in New York at the end of September. Just want to mention that we have not ever missed the opportunity to retrace Stephen's footsteps, including last year during COVID. However, that was Frank Siller retracing his brother's footsteps with 3 family members through the HLC into Manhattan. So we quietly honored and remembered in the best way possible under difficult circumstances. In addition, I want to thank you for your continued support and to point out that because of you and because of all of our donors and everybody who is so willing to pull up a chair to the table, together we have been able to, or by the end of this year, we will have been able to deliver a total of 450 mortgage-free homes. And that actually is attributable to everybody that sits in that room there as much as it is to us. We currently have $250 million committed to our programs. 93.2 cents of every dollar that Tunnel to Towers takes in goes directly to those programs. We're super proud of that. And I was told tonight as I was preparing these comments that this year, after working with our accountants, we are expecting to announce that that 93.2 cents of every dollar is actually closer to a 95% allocation. So with your help, we're doing really well, and we look forward to being back, and I ask for your continued support, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Fantastic. Anybody in the room have any questions for them? They will be coming in August. So
Repeat the date. It's September 26th, I think.
September 26th, yes.
The event is September 26th. They're coming back to the community board for the one meeting we hold in August, and please don't make me hold more than one, please. I see 2 hands up. We're going to start with Bob because you're straight in the back.
Yeah, and Tammy, I promise not to talk tonight, but I do have to congratulate. I remember, I believe it was Stephen's brother who came here the year after the first year you ran it. He gave everybody a hat. But I have to say, as a nonprofit, your nonprofit is one of the most effective, honest that we know of. And I heard you say 92 cents on every dollar, 93 cents. And that is a tribute to Stephen's memory. That has been such an effective use of the mission, which is compelling, and the fun. And you need to all be congratulated. It's a model that everyone from the Ford Foundation to youth looks after, and I want to congratulate you. Effective model.
Thank you so much.
Bob, I saw a hand in the back.
I'm good, Tammy. I'll pick it up in August.
Okay, fantastic. We are still technically part of the public session, but with that, I'm actually going to not take questions from the public. I'm going to close the public session. I appreciate, we welcome you. We will see you in August. Thank you for the inclusion of the community and for your openness to the dialogue that we had. So we look forward to seeing you in August. Thank you, everybody. And think of your loved ones who have passed from 9/11. Make sure that we can get the names to the organization so they can be. Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you. All right. So with that, we're going to close the public session. Woo-hoo! One and done. So thank you, guys. With that, we're going to go with our elected representatives. I see some online and some in the room, and then if Liz still in the building, we haven't killed her.
Yeah.
So let's start with We're gonna go Cora Fung, Claudia Zhu, and Hannah Wienerman, and Andrew, then Gail's live. Yes? I saw Andrew, who was here.
I'm gonna take something.
You're talking, so, okay. So we're gonna go Cora, Andrew, Claudia, and Hannah.
Cora, I made you a panelist. You can unmute yourself and put yourself on video if you want. Hannah had to drop off, but she sent me her notes, so I'll read her update on her behalf.
3 minutes, please.
3 minutes, okay. Cora?
Yes, I'm here. You can hear me, right? Hello, everyone. Cora from Councilmember Chin's office. Today, I want to give you a highlight on the city's money. With the start of fiscal year 2022 on July 1st, the council reinstated and expanded the funds to senior services, after-school programs, alternatives to incarceration, and many more. And with federal aid to help us bounce back, our city was able to restore funding to programs like curbside organic composting. Many of you are in support of it, and also make historic investments because we got much more money for public schools and open spaces. Still not enough, but the numbers definitely has been increased. Then this year, Councilmember Chin, as always, she's proud to fight for our community, and she secures city money to make repairs for our parks, for schools, for sidewalks, and also housing in District 1. So just give you a highlight of the school money. We got money for after-school programming, in capsule renovations for public schools, $1 million to renovate libraries at Millennium High and BMCC. We got money for auditorium upgrades at Seward Park campus. We got playground upgrades at PS 124 and PS 130. We also got some money for the new or updated technology, including smartboards, laptops, tablets, and hydroponic labs. Then with Harbor School, we got more money. And recently, as you remember, we got $1 million for the new swimming pool. We got $958,000 to build the Marine and Science Technology Center at the Harbor School. And with the building 515, that will add 18 classrooms and will add approximately like 400 seats to the Harbor School. So with all this expansion, that will include a pool and a gymnasium. And again, it will never be enough, but every year, Councilmember Chin fought for the money, and the figures has been increased. And thank you all, always voicing your concerns, suggestions, fighting on behalf of your community. Me professionally and personally, I thank you for that as well, since I'm also a resident downtown. And thank you so much. That's it for me for now. Back to you, Tammy.
Cora, moving along, we'll do Andrew Chang from Manhattan Borough President's Office.
Andrew's here presently?
Presently in the room.
Andrew, would you come a little closer to the microphone, please?
Okay, hello, everybody. I'll just try to be brief. I have several items I want to mention. First off, the borough president sent her own letter to Governor Cuomo last month regarding the essential workers monuments. And she asked that the governor help the building of the monuments. And as most of y'all probably know, governor did help the building of the monument by Labor Day. And he it's going to give community more time to decide where to build it and when to build it by. This is not in Community Board One's district, but we've been hosting weekly meetings with social service providers regarding the ongoing quality of life issues in Washington Square Park. We've been working with homeless outreach organizations and drug prevention groups to help treat folks who are using drugs in the park. And we hope to get 7-day-a-week outreach and coverage so that these folks are getting the help that they need. And Greenwich House is one of our main partners. We want to thank them for all the work that they've been doing. There's a statement on the back table in the hallway. There are 53 cooling centers in Manhattan. And we did a report, we did outreach, we found that 1 in 4 centers listed as open were actually closed. Most sites lack clear signage, label them as colon centers. There's a lack of staffing, and other issues. We also have to get a bunch of surveys and reports. I won't go into too much. And then I guess lastly, I want to say that we also have a Manhattan Community Award Program for schools and nonprofits. Please check our website. And then lastly, I want to say we have several events coming up. July 29th at 4:30 p.m. We're hosting an info session regarding PEBT with Community Food Advocates. This is pandemic electronic benefit transfer funds for each public school family, $820 to $1320 per child. And we have an organics and composting workshop on August 2nd, and Make Music in the Park event on August 4th at in Uptown, 86th Street and East End Avenue. It's also in the sheet that we have in the back table. Yes.
Gail also proclaimed July 13th, Black Vision Day, live from Black Gotham in the Seaport on that date, as did Senator Brad Hoylman, for noting two events in history, one from the 1600s, when the first two land grants were given to people of African descent, and another marking the massacre in 1863, both on that day, July 13th. She was there, I was there. I saw her hand the proclamation to Camus, and then he also got one from Brad Hoylman.
Can I also just ask a question, two questions actually? Is the borough president going to have a public hearing on 250 Water Street?
I will get back to you on that.
Paul, she promised Texlet that she was.
Okay, thank you. And question two, in reviewing some press clippings in light of Board 2 turning down the Soho NoHo rezoning, it said that, and I don't know how accurate this is, that the borough president is still unsure of her position on that matter.
Yes.
Is she willing to have an equally open mind on this, especially if this board passes a strong resolution before us tonight?
She will issue a review of recommendation on 250 Water Street. As many of y'all probably know already, she's supportive of the Seaport Museum.
And so are we.
Yeah.
So, and that's all I can say on her behalf regarding that.
So no view.
There's no view expressed at the moment. She's gonna issue an opinion on Soho NoHo in her ULIP application.
Thank you.
And so I just kind of want to point out that we are also in the new conference room that was dedicated in honor of Constance Baker Motley.
Yes.
So, and that was also done by Gail, who, if you don't know who Constance Baker Motley is, I challenge you to Google her and look her up. She is one of the most accomplished borough presidents, an amazing woman, and first African-American judge. She really is just an widely unknown figure. Yeah.
Who's last now?
All right, thank you, Andrew. All right, next.
Sorry.
Mark, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand in the back of the room. Go.
What's the new process gonna be now for this, review thing? Are we gonna be involved, or are they just gonna pick another place?
Are you talking about the essential workers one?
Yeah.
I'll tell you my chair report.
And there's a press release.
There's a press release that went out. It's not what Community Board 1 asked about. So, okay, go over.
What else?
All right, Claudia is next, and then we'll close with Hannah Wienerman and then keep going. Claudia, welcome.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. This is Claudia from Assembly Member News Office. Sorry, I lied last month. Julie was hopefully going to make it here. She did not. So if you have me for one last time, this is my last board report to the Community Board 1. Yes, I will miss all of you. For a few of the big topics that we were talking about, for 250 Ward specifically, we are still not satisfied with the current extension to September. We have told the board multiple times. We are working with our program and council. We have received some of the comments from the board members as well as community residents. We are exploring this particular part about the commissioner's discretion. It's a very vague term at the moment. So we are working with our program and council to get better clarity on what we're working with and hopefully get an extension further into October. Not going to repeat on Essential Workers Monument and Julie did not make it to the last meeting hosted by the Coalition for 100% Affordable Five World Trade. And she certainly wants to reiterate her support for the coalition and fight to make downtown a place that we can afford to call home. In the month of July, we were able to distribute 21,000 of Trojan masks and 14,000 of surgical masks for local schools. We're still making our way throughout the district, prioritizing schools and senior centers at the moment. But certainly if we have leftover after we make that initial round, we're going to be reaching out to additional locations in the district, likely going to do saddle house programs in the area and hopefully make the masks into good use. And one more note, I originally had our new community liaison, Amy. She was sitting next to me a couple of minutes ago, but I did have to send her off to community board so we could catch her speaking time there. Amy will be filling in as Yulene's new scheduler, as well as the liaison to community board 3. So at the moment, for filling my position, Lawrence will be stepping in as CU1 liaison at the moment. So please feel free to redirect any questions to Lawrence after my departure. And thank you to CB1. And I close my final board report. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. Thank you for hanging with us through the pandemic. Thank you for being so patient when I missed you and calling me out after you had signed in and I glitched out. I really appreciate all the flexibility that you've given for both us and the community. And we thank the assembly member for her support.
And good luck to you.
Yeah, I keep thinking maybe next month she'll be back. You know?
We're
going to see her where she goes. Francis would like to know where you're going.
Going anywhere. I decided to take some time off.
Oh, beautiful. Well, we wish you the
We'll
best.
see you in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Even better.
Small as a bubble, so I will certainly
Okay.
not allow bumping into any of you.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
We will be delighted to see you again. All right, Hannah Wienerman.
Hi, I'm Lucian Reynolds, and I'm speaking on behalf of Hannah. She had to go, but she sent me her notes. So Jennifer, I think I can do this in 3 minutes.
Perfect.
So she has 3 points. Number 1, FEMA. FEMA has only received registrations for its funeral assistance programs for 44% of New York City CDC recorded deaths from COVID-19. All eligible New Yorkers are encouraged to apply for this federal assistance. As a reminder, families can apply for up to $9,000. So if there's a death that occurred from January 20th to May 16th, 2020, please call 844-684-6333 or go to FEMA.gov.
Lucian, January 2019 or January 2020?
January 20th, I believe 2020.
Thank you.
You can also email our office and we'll provide these notes to you verbatim. Number 2, in April, the Small Business Administration increased the limit for EIDL loans. Colin, this is for you, raising the max from 150K to 500K. If you received an EIDL loan, you can reapply for an increased amount after the fact until December 31st, 2021. You can contact your local SBDC, that's a Small Biz Development Center, if you need help. There's one at Pace University, 212-618-6655, or sbdc@pace.edu. Next, passports. Everyone's worked up. The passport agency is experiencing very increased processing times. So our office is encouraging everyone to check your passport's expiration dates and give yourself ample time to renew your passport or to apply for a new passport for yourself, family member, if you are planning to travel overseas in the coming months. Please contact her office at 212-367-7350 with any questions, or you can reach out to her directly at Hannah.Wienerman, that's HANNAH, Wiener Wienerman, WEINERMAN @mail.house.gov. And Colin, I'll put that in the notes for you. And that was all her update.
Well, thank you for that. With that, we are ready to call for an adoption of the 2021 minutes.
Gail here.
I called for the adoption.
Great. I hear seconds. I see hands. Okay. I'm going to assume all in favor. Do I hear any no's? Any recusals? Any abstention? With that, motion passes. And Mariama, you're up for the treasurer's report.
I am. So I hope that you guys received the budget in email because I did not, I forgot to print it out. I meant to print it and bring it to everybody. We have $113,431.57 that we are rolling over into the 2022 fiscal year. That is all the money that we have remaining from our street fairs. That's the only money we're allowed to roll over into our next budget. Anything that we received in the form of grants or from OMB, we have to return any unspent money. And of that, we do have $146.41 that will be going back to OMB and $1,740.34 in grants that will be going back. So for a total of $1,886.75 that we're returning. We've been very, very frugal and careful with our money, so we still have some. Going into the 2022 fiscal year, Lucian made an announcement the other day that we would spend some money on keeping the office safe and allowing ourselves to make these hybrid meetings possible. So he was investing in these owls as well as filters that will be used in the meeting rooms to cycle the air and can also be used by the staff. They're portable. They can move them into the office so that they can breathe from 9 to 5 as well. That's it. That's the treasurer's report.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All right, moving on. Lucian, we're going to welcome Lucian Reynolds, not Hannah, but Lucian for the district manager's report.
You all may be very confused. I'm Lucian Reynolds. I'm the district manager of CB1. Want to thank you all for being here. It's unfortunate that we all are in here in this room together. I believe it's farcical that the governor thought it was time for open meeting law to come back into full effect. Clearly, I believe that we're all universally in the opinion that it is not the appropriate time to be here in the meeting together. So we had very little time to prepare to go back into in-person. We learned at the end of last month that the following month's activities would be moot if they were not joined by people in person. We've encouraged any board member who does not feel comfortable being in here to not be in here and to join us remotely while not being able to contribute to quorum or vote. Our guidance is that everyone's health is more important than CB1 meetings, and I'm happy to say that. One moment, Mark. So we've been receiving reports from DCAS. That is the agency that runs most city buildings, including the one we're in now. In preparation for return to office, they had made preparations to make sure that all rooms in this building the air in all rooms was being circulated to CDC guidelines. The filters were upgraded to the MERV, MERVs, and I'm sorry.
MERV what?
Whatever the CDC guideline is, DCAS said that they've upgraded it. And we are making sure that we have capacity limitations. This room is currently at less than 50% capacity. The next step that we took to reduce the amount of demand for people to be in the same room together was we kept with the online portion of our meetings. So we are running hybrid meetings. We are one of the only boards that are consistently running hybrid meetings for every single meeting. The reason why we're doing that is because in this meeting alone, there was over 50 people joining us remotely who would have otherwise wanted to be in person to be heard for the record, heard by the members and by other members of the public. So these are the things that we're doing to try to cut down the number of people here. We urge everyone to join us remotely. in future months, we will certainly be looking for other spaces. We have some real requirements here. We need to make sure that people can join us remotely for all the reasons I mentioned at the very beginning of the meeting. And then I'll repeat now, there are people that joined us over the past 15 months that never joined us before for many reasons. One, physically, they may not have been able to come. They may have had family obligations that kept them from leaving the home. And a myriad other reasons. We want to keep them in the fold. So we want to keep offering hybrid meetings for that reason as well. Thus, we have to make sure that any location we travel to has impeccable Wi-Fi. Because without Wi-Fi, this is not happening. Two, we want to make sure that any location we travel to also meets the same air standards, whether it's MERV and air cycling that we enjoy here. And then we also need to keep our staff safe and our members safe and the public safe. So we're taking the month of August to really try to think about where we can have this, what places meet all those requirements. You know, we reached out to a number of spaces for this month and were politely turned down. But I want to just reassure everyone that we have everyone's safety in mind. And if I had a magic wand, I would reestablish that state of emergency so we didn't have to be here. And and also I worked a lot on the essential workers monument stuff at the beginning of the month. But you can see what our month was consumed with in July. And Tammy, I hand it back to you.
Thanks for all of this.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm participating, it's Bruce, but I don't know how to raise my hand or if the chair sees my hand.
Bruce,
Just for those
hang
who are online.
Bruce, hang on a sec. I see your hand.
Okay, I just want to know if it was working that way. Thank you.
Hold on. We do questions in the room and then questions remote. So Mark had his hand up first. Mark.
So, Lucian, if members that join us remotely, the board members, are they at least able to get credit for an attendance?
So well, this is what I worked out, is that I mark attendance for members who are joining us remotely. I make a note that they weren't present in the meeting for quorum, but they are present in the meeting remotely, so that when I talk to the next borough president, I can explain that during this month, where we've all were thrown into a very tumultuous situation, while we pleaded for Albany to go back into session to pass meeting law reform, that there were members who weren't able to join us in person, but did make the effort to join us remotely. And I believe that the next borough president will be receptive to that. And I really want to make sure that all of our members know that we're going to do our best to not make it look like a bad grade on your report card if you're not able to join in July.
Great.
It's an incomplete, not a fail.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna go Mitch and then Francis, I think.
I just want to follow up on that. Is there any chance, do you think, of Gail, while she's still here, like overruling just in her borough because that really seems unfair?
It's state law.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Yuleen has legislation that she has already started. So, it's not only does it affect community boards, but it affects all public bodies.
Yeah.
So Yuleen has legislation. If you're interested in it, contact Claudia before she leaves. You get a copy of it.
I support it.
And just one thing I'll say is that we're not the only ones who are, in tough shape here. There's actually councils upstate that I was told about today that are having a horrible time because, they're not able to put meetings together in their, committees. People aren't comfortable. So, there's actual, there's governments that pass laws that are having a horrible time with this returning back to the open meetings law. And it's really unfortunate, and it was preventable.
Okay.
Solution.
No, Bob, we're going around the room. Everybody goes once and then we come back to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to ask the governor, since he is proposing this, can he give up some space?
Yeah.
We should have, that should be the trade-off, because I sit in meetings with Gail
every week, and she complained, that's one thing she brings up at the beginning of the meeting, the fact that we have to have it virtual meetings, we didn't need
If you
to.
could find a way to have the governor listen to anything we say in CB1, I'm with you, Francis.
But I think I mean, everybody,
Yep.
you know, they should be given up state space.
Bob,
City's moving towards in-person on a number of levels, but I do want to ask, what spaces, Lucian, did you ask and got turned down? I could think of some.
we will take that offline. If you want to help us find locations, I'm happy to jump on a
Sure,
Zoom
I'm
call
happy to
with you.
help. Happy.
Yeah, I don't want to, every location has their own bandwidth for what they can and cannot do. We've had some who have come forward and volunteered. I mean, we would love to go back to the boathouse, but the Wi-Fi doesn't work there. So that's an issue. It's an ideal opportunity because of the airflow, not ideal because it doesn't have the
I
tank.
agree with that, and I'll take that offline, but the boathouse has a real techie guy there, and I guarantee you, he could figure something out.
But like, that's an example of a place.
Yeah,
that
yeah. Yes.
We're working on. I think, DCTV offered to have us. We
We
haven't,
recently got an offer.
we got an offer this week
I'll,
from them.
I'll work with you. I think the
Perfect.
schools are available in September.
Exactly. All right, Bruce, you had your hand up.
Bruce, you're muted.
Unmute yourself.
I see him on this side.
He knows, he's trying to figure it out. I can see
Bruce,
that.
I can unmute you if you like.
I can't see it on
Go ahead,
Can you
Bruce.
unmute me? Am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yes. And see you.
What's happening?
What do you want to say?
Turn up your
Oh,
volume.
okay, sorry. I didn't know if you could hear me. I'm sorry, having a little technical difficulty. First of all, if you want, I can help with DC if that comes up. But secondly, I just want to put in a good word for Lucian. If I've ever said anything bad about Lucian, I take it back. I emailed and I texted and I called the borough president's office very kindly about this issue, explaining health matters, explaining that I understand the borough president's council interpretation of the law here and that we had to have the meeting. However, it is my understanding that it's in the borough president's purview not to penalize people for being concerned and being present online. I got no response from Jennifer from Mates, and I'm sorry about that. I agree with Bob Townley 100%. So thank you. That's what I wanted to say. Oh, it's Lucian who spent 20 minutes with me explaining things and working things out for us. So I appreciate it.
Welcome, Bruce.
Love this. Okay, so with that, are you done, Lucian?
I'm done.
Everybody good in the room? I see no other hands online, correct? All right,
I'll do my thing.
let's roll. Chairperson's report, that's me, I'm up. Next slide, please. I'm going to be quick. It's been a busy month, we're still rolling. Keep in mind, the city is rolling ahead whether you like it or not. The timeline that's on the top is a timeline about the open restaurants. Because while we're all having conversations and we see the local media and stuff, that is the timeline that they're looking at. So the emergency order is in place until 2022, but they're looking to change the laws and have it work now. For Therese, you might be better off filming that one. It's closer to you. All right. Just saying. All right, so that's all the places and spaces we've been in this month. So we've had 5 World Trade Center Community Advisory Council meetings since the last board meeting. And LMDC updates with them. They are coming to see us in August. We have first precinct community council meeting. When Pat comes back, I'm sure she'll be adding that because she's along with Lucy. We had the FIDI public meeting sessions. I can't tell you enough. Take a look at the slide on the bottom right there, that pretty picture. You should take a look at their potential plans, a beautiful park plan and the 9 development sites that appeared on the last slide. Okay, so BPCA and Battery Park City Neighbors Association had a meeting on the 6th about the commission. A press release came out today. There's a new commission formed. And it includes both Justine and I on there, as well as the neighbors and some board members and some union reps, which is delightful. It still doesn't address the fact that Battery Park City does not need another monument nor memorial at all. I'll leave that there. We'll see what that happens. There are communities of color who would benefit and socioeconomically disadvantaged communities who would benefit from the state funding that this comes with to be able to beautify a neighborhood that needs the money. All right, Borough Board was hot. We were here in this room. We had 37 of us signed up for that meeting. It was rather busy because you have all of the zoning text amendments come through. We did city health and fitness citywide, food retail expansion program, which is fresh, and citywide hotels all passed with caveats from all of the community boards, which was nice. We had a meeting with Tricia Joyce and I with the SCA and people from PSP. I think many people were on the board when we were delighted and celebrated because the Department of Education and SCA said they would no longer do gymatoriums. This was under the Obama administration because they completely understood the health needs to have separate gymnasiums from auditoriums and the programming needs as supported by the principals who were on the task force that we were all with. Only to find out that that's not true, and now gymatorium is the standard once again for the SCA with potential for extra movement rooms. How they expect that works is beyond. We did have a meet and greet, several of us, with Jenna, and I apologize, I'm going to finalize her last name, who's the Director of Civic Alliances for the World Trade Center Arts Center. She seems like a delightful human being. We look forward to her participating and welcoming the PAC to open in 2023. We did a meet and greet, Deborah Glick, with Senator Chuck Schumer, had all people from AD 66. So you had representatives from CB 1, 2, and 3, as well as local organization groups like Greenwich House and others, who were all there to talk to Senator Schumer about what are on the ground needs that he could be supportive of. It was one of the best sessions I have ever been in with an elected official in the entire time I have served in any public service. It was beyond unbelievable. Every topic was covered that is near and dear to our hearts on Community Board 1, historic districts, affordability, coastal resiliency, everything that you can think of that we have long sought was discussed, which was really nice to hear him listening. Green energy, and I could go on. Which brings me to the meetings with Jordan Salinger and LMCR. Again, take a look at the slides. If you can't find them, ask Alice or I. I cannot begin to explain enough how important resiliency measures and funding and potential plans by the city are going to be. Next slide. Sorry, Lucian. Bruce, you still there?
I'm here. Can you hear me? Okay, I'm here. You scared me.
Presentation. So this month, I want to say thank you to Bruce. Bruce is stepping off as chair of Landmarks. Jason and Vicky are stepping in. And Bruce is not leaving us. We are tying Bruce to the chair so he cannot leave us. Whether the chair is in his house or at the table. But Bruce is unbelievable. He has helped lead Landmarks through a very, very challenging time. And he's going to take a little bit of more of enjoyment time and be, I think what Colin likes to call it, the grenade thrower from the back of the room as a regular member, which is really more fun. So. Yeah. First and foremost, since Bruce is not leaving us, we don't have a prop for him, but we do want to recognize his accomplishments, his membership on the board for so long. And thank you for your continued, and we can't wait to see what else you're going to do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, Brittany gotten into grad school. So Brittany, are you still on with us tonight? Yes, you are. You gotta turn your camera on. We're gonna talk about you.
Doesn't have a camera.
Come on, Brittany.
I am here. Let me find better lighting. 1 second.
Why don't we have it over there?
Because
we're not on the side.
So Brittany Wade is our assistant secretary, and Brittany is going to grad school. Now, I would say congratulations. We are thrilled for her. She got, and Brittany, where are you going? Do you mind telling everybody?
So sorry, my camera's not working. It won't let me turn it on in the app, so I do apologize. But I'm going to Dartmouth.
Oh.
I'd like to say we at Community Board One, with the work that she was involved with through quality of life, with Mariama, with Justine, with everybody from land use and every other committee she touched on, helped her get where she's going. Because, we're really proud of her. We're very excited for her and really pissed because she's leaving. But on that note, so thank you, Brittany, very much. This is her last meeting and she is virtual with us. So everybody, a round of applause for Brittany.
Thank you. It's been great. It's been a wonderful experience.
All right, so that brings me back to, I know Diana's gonna kill me, back to my next slide. Back to the same slide, if you don't mind. There we go. Ooh, so I can see it. Okay, so hot topics. Of course, has anybody been following to know that we potentially will be redistricted? Okay, public testimony is available now. If you like our elected officials and you think that having us be where we are is good, please, 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 write, testify. If you need the links, we'll get them to you. We do not really want to be connected with Uptown. The needs of Lower Manhattan are very different from the needs around Grand Central and Uptown. We also are not very aligned with Staten Island. So I don't see that it would be a really great partnership to be redistricted with that neighborhood either.
Is that a proposal, Tammy?
Those are some of the proposals. So this is why we need to, I can't, whatever your politics are is not my business. We don't talk politics, elections and things like that, but redistricting is something that we need to talk about and people need to testify. If you need the links, please email the office and we will get that to you.
Or are we gonna write a resolution?
We will hopefully write a resolution in August. Yes, but public testimony is now. 250 Water, the Seaport Marketplace lease, the DEIS, open restaurants, Battery Park City Authority with their plans for both the Battery, which means from the edge, from the bottom of Broadway, all the way over into Battery Park City is moving along. And then BPCA's Northern and Western. We never heard back from the FOIL from 250, or 240 Greenwich, surprise. DOT is coming in September for a Brooklyn Banks discussion, which we've been asking for. 5 World Trade Center is coming in August. Borough-based jails, we'd love to get some answers, have not seen that yet. And that brings me to the Commission for the Essential Workers. That has now been announced. The Battery Park City Authority is doing it again. I have no information other than it's a group of people and they are still insisting in Battery Park City. What that means, I don't know, but Justin and I will be happy to report out. Next slide. So in topics of resiliency, the resiliency meeting is August 4th. It's virtual on Zoom. We will send this around to everybody. There's also the night before is National Night Out, which we have done before with the First Precinct Community Council. Pat, thank you very much, is the treasurer now over there. So our connections continue over there. We're very pleased. We hope that if you are in town, please join us there. And then I was also notified that there is also a blood drive that week. So if you're here the first week in August, please donate your blood, join for the North and West Battery Park City, and go to National Night Out. And with that, I close my chair report. If you have any questions, let me know. Paul.
The Waterfront Parks Committee has been taking the lead on the issue of Brooklyn Banks. And I see you have it assigned now to transportation. So I think it should continue with,
That might be a typo on my part, because
Okay.
I
Thank
agree
you.
with you. It's supposed to come back. I think it's coming back to you. I think.
well, we have been working on it for some
Which-
time.
Paul, you know what? It kind of goes into my comment of how many things does DOT now do? Are they going to be the ones who come to licensing when we do open restaurants?
Looks that way.
Right? So that does come to your point. Yes, they're supposed to go back to parks. They are not supposed to go to DOT.
Thank
To
you.
Transpo. Thank you. All right. Anybody else? Any other questions? Mariam.
Just a comment on your, the commission that you're gonna be on. First of all, thank you. I know that you share, and this whole community pretty much shares the opinion that the monument does not belong here. But I just really want to put on the record and stress that the majority of essential workers are people from the outer boroughs, especially the Bronx and Queens. And as you mentioned, people and communities of color, they were the most impacted by the virus. They are the most under vaccinated and lack access to medical treatment in general. And they are who were coming here to serve us during the pandemic. And just in March, so just 2 months before this monument was proposed, some of these same people literally had to go on a hunger strike to get their share of the relief of COVID relief. They were not being recognized. Now, all of a sudden, we love them so much, they get a monument miles from their homes. It's disgusting.
Nothing.
So-
It's not gonna be.
There's
I just wanna
not-
chime
There's
in.
not one thing that I could say that doesn't amplify what you are,
Yeah,
had said.
exactly.
We have said this as a board. I have said it personally. I have said it with every single one of us. It
Right.
is the most tone
That-
deaf
Exactly.
thing
Yes.
I have ever heard of.
I mean, that was the first thing you and I said. We were talking about it and we
got a
said,
Resolution coming up, which is.
They had to
Yes,
beg for the undocumented workers fund. They had to beg
Yes.
for the HERO Act. It
It's-
didn't just, it
No.
wasn't just granted.
Because they get
Mariama,
more, they
that
get
was one
more.
of the first things that
That
Tim
I believe it,
said,
yes,
yeah.
thank God.
that, you know,
We were
it
there.
should be in either Brooklyn Borough Hall or Bronx or Queens.
Yeah,
People
and there's
actually-
city council members who
Jessica Ross,
requested
The
for it,
assembly member from Queens, who
Mhm.
represents where Elmhurst Hospital, where
and
actually
Drum too.
was one of the largest epicenters, said,
Absolutely.
what on earth is going on?
Right.
Mark Levine, who is our incoming
Mhm.
assumptive borough president, put out this great map that
Yeah.
had the dot on the corner saying, this is the neighborhood that's like minimally affected.
That's,
Why there? Why are we ignoring the rest? Those are all
And
great
Elmhurst is also one of the centers of excellence. So,
Yes.
Correct.
now we could recognize essential works, but we've been recognizing first responders there since 9/11, or since the program was created,
My hope
which is around
that you write-
2011.
My hope is that you write to the governor.
I will.
Write to the president
I
of
will.
32 BJ.
I will.
And the other union that is included on the new commission, because this commission that is formed is only, according to the press release, to determine locations within.
Battery Park City, that's all there is.
And it should be someplace that the essential workers themselves walk by every
Right.
day.
Well, God forbid it ends up here. At
One
least I can
thing.
put it on concrete. Let me say that, because
Mariama, the thing is, they get more, unfortunately, I agree with everything you said. They get more publicity by being there than being Crotona Park or St. Mary's Park in the Bronx or in any of the other parks where it should be. And it's, they only care about the recognition that they're getting for doing it.
Oh, you mean that, yeah.
It should be Crotona Park or St. Mary's
The
Park. by
recognition for the
Hospital.
governor and the people that are
Let's-
building it.
Crotona Park.
Let's continue on because the
Yeah.
dialogue is not ending.
No,
I think this is the beginning. I think we have an opportunity to be at a table to have the dialogue. I think that we continue with the dialogue. And I hope that the governor will listen to his constituents that are not only in Lower Manhattan, but in other parts of the city. That is the most important thing. All right. So anybody else with that? Let's close the chair point and let's rock and roll. Let's go, nominating committee. So, I elected Susan Paul as part of the nominating committee. And I'm gonna put Mariama and Alice. It'll be a really fast nominating committee. So nominating committee is formed and passed. As of tonight, if anybody else would like to be on it, great.
yeah, I know.
And you can submit anybody's names from now for assistant secretary until August. In August, we'll close nominations and we will vote in September.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Colin,
I'd like to nominate Amy Quinn for
Yes.
secretary.
awesome. I'm
Hey.
sorry. Do you accept the nomination?
Sure.
Awesome. All right.
Are we done?
Call for
If we have no other nominations and we can close it in August, we can find out, and then we can just move on.
Yeah, well, I support that. I second it. I vote for it. Let's do it.
I think so. Alrighty, so with that, thank you guys very, very, very much. We appreciate that, and let's rock to executive committee. We have the licensing committee who ran out of quorum, so we have resolutions for that. Every single licensing committee resolution from this month forward must also have an amendment in there, a whereas and a therefore be resolved that relates to sidewalk seating and street seating, no matter what, because we do not know what the legislation will be. And whether it will be retroactive, whatever the grandfathers are, we know what the situation is, we know what the emergency order is, we must have those comments in there. We did talk about it, for each one. I don't see that they make the resolutions for some reason. So when we go through that,
That's why I'm glad you're bringing this up, because I'm looking at it and I'm saying, it's in every resolution, Shanta.
it needs to be in every resolution going forward.
We
So,
did ask each item, we did ask.
right, so
Yeah.
for 36 Walker, that one is landmarks. Do we have Jason or Vicky?
Jason.
Jason, do we have any changes or is everything good for 36 and 4951?
I think it's all great.
Would you be comfortable taking them together even though we have to roll call it?
Think so.
All right, does anybody who have any questions for Jason or Vicky? You good, Jason? All right.
Tammy,
Oh, hand up, yes.
I apologize, but
You reminded me of something. I'm really sorry to do this. Can I ask? I apologize, now that I forget. Every board member who has come onto the board since 2020, just stand.
Yeah, yeah.
2020.
2020.
All you new guys.
No,
all you guys.
Yeah, they do.
Cookies. Oh. We
Okay.
know Jeff.
Still up. So that's.
shoot us.
Shot, actually, I'd like you to go around, say your names and what committees you serve on, because this is our first in person and I forgot to appropriately welcome you accordingly.
Yes.
We're gonna start with the oldest, newest.
Yeah. Yeah, Jeff Galloway. I'm the oldest, probably chronologically as well as experience. I serve on the Battery Park City Committee, the Environmental Committee, and Personnel Committee.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Welcome back.
Thank you.
You're next.
You're next.
Eric Flores, I serve on the Battery Park City and Youth Education.
Do you mind quickly just taking down your map real fast so we can see you? There you go.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Taylin and I serve on the Youth and Ed and Transportation.
But I will have to say, Tayland is also going to.
Yes.
So I think his last meeting is next month, for which we'll give him a send off next month. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Around the room.
Kenny Grant, Youth and Education and Environmental Protection.
Kenny.
Rosa Chang, Land Use and Waterfront Park.
And Rosa also sits with us on the 5 World Trade Center CAT.
Yes.
And Rosa's come to quality of life quite often.
Yes, yes. And Battery Park City.
Thank you, Rosa.
Always good to see you.
Gerald Forsberg, LPC and Land Use Committees.
Welcome.
Richard Corman, Environmental Protection, Waterfront Parks, and Land Use.
Welcome.
Thank you, Jimmy. And then we have Helena Colley, who's online with us today. Helena?
Oh, yeah, I know her.
Hi, it's Helena. Sorry, I can't be there in person. My family had a previous trip away that was planned before we got here, but I'm very happy to be part of the board. I'm on Youth and Ed, Environmental Protection, and licensing.
Fantastic. So thank you, everybody. That reminded me, it was so great to have everybody in the room and be able to see you.
And you can actually have something to say. Yes.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Does he have an LVC question?
And you have an LPC question, Heather?
Yeah, the question is just, therefore be it resolved, it says that, the pergola is not visible from east on Walker Street. From the east, or were we saying from street level?
That would be from the street level. East of the building.
Okay, from street level, all right, and, are we scrapping anything about accessibility, the rooftop accessibility? Is that,
Yeah, there is.
is there a whereas? Okay, I wasn't sure if that was to be included in the as well. All right.
Okay, so is that, Jason, a friendly amendment that pergola is not visible from the street level east on Walker? The
Yeah.
street level have to be in there or no?
See if we can leave street level, that's where.
It's not there. He's
It's
looking
not
to
there,
wants
so
to add
that's what I'm
it.
saying, do we add it?
Yeah, sure.
Sure,
Okay,
exactly.
thank you. Pat?
I'm sorry, did we get the information? Remember you had asked them to send?
And it
We
all
did.
fell in line with what we asked.
Yeah. Okay.
For example, there was no historic fabric behind the thing. And the other one was they don't intend to change the the angle of the photo of Penny Place. You know, I don't see it being more visible than it was presented, and we're asking them kindly to cut all visibility of that from the east. It can't be cut from the west. We saw that. So,
And what about the leveling on the roof so that it's accessible to the back?
they said they were gonna look into it, and, that's, I put that as a whereas, but I fell short of like making that kind of like a demand for approval, our approval, because it's really not kind of part of our purview here. Like, we start digging into like handicap access, it's not having to do with the way we see this storage structure. I think it's, you know, it serves itself well in that whereas, and he seemed very, I forwarded it to Vicky and he was very responsible and responding to every question. And he really seemed like he wanted to work with
Good, okay.
Well, my only concern, I'm sorry, my only concern was on the height of this pergola, because these solar panels only work when they're at an angle. So once they're raised, that raises their visibility, but what did we decide?
Well, he said they weren't gonna raise, so I think we have to take him for his word that they're not going to raise. And I think
Wait, so he's having solar for nothing, just for
I don't
the.
want to get in the weeds on that. I'm not a solar expert. It's not really what we
They
should
have
be.
to be in order to work. It's an architecture exam question.
No,
Okay.
he's, in the meeting, he said they were adjustable, unless he's come back and said they were not going to be.
He actually, I don't know, Tabby, I don't want to be the only one who read it, but, and I'm sorry I didn't tell it forward to everyone, and I will now. It reads as they will not be, the question was, can you change the solar panels, so they're not visible? I thought that was our general kind of question. We don't care if they're raised but not visible.
Correct.
And his response was, they will not be raised. And so, to me, that means they're still gonna be flat on the pergola. And we've asked him to also cut back the pergola.
No, he just makes
Doesn't
that
work
up.
that way.
Doesn't work that way.
7
but-
degrees in summer.
Let the judge decide that, right? I mean, we can't, when we ask for information from a person, most of the time the responses are more confrontational or.
Yeah.
So if a man puts in an email in 2021, a response that, you know, we think is suitable, I don't like to question everything about it because.
So all right, so let me.
But I'm happy to go whatever way.
I got you, Jason.
Yeah.
To repeat where Jason was going, the questions that were answered, the solar panel orientation, the gentleman responded, we are proposing to not have the solar panels of the pergola be adjustable nor set in any inclination above horizontal. The panels will be kept flat as was represented in the presentation. Now, that is what he says. If they don't function that way, I agree with Jason, that's something he can deal with landmarks on. They have promised us a certain thing that they came back to. We're good with it.
Yeah, you call the question, I'll second it.
Okay, so there's a call, a second. We're gonna roll call this. And Lucian, are you roll calling?
Yeah, I am.
All right. So remember, we're gonna roll call just like we did remotely. So say your last name and your vote, although it's easier to see in the room.
All right, here we go. Amoroso,
Second call, please.
okay. Alice Blank,
Yeah, blank, yes.
Blank, yes. Brown Kennedy,
Brown Kennedy, yes.
Cameron,
Cameron, yes.
Cassell,
Cassell, yes.
Cassell, yes, thank you. Chang,
Thank yes.
and yes, thank you. Chapman,
Chapman, yes.
thank you. Charkoudian,
Charkoudian, yes.
thank you. Corman,
Corman, yes.
Kucha,
Lucia, yes.
Curtis,
Curtis, yes.
Flores,
Flores, yes.
Flynn,
Flynn, yes.
Forsberg,
Forsberg, yes.
Francoeur,
Yes.
Friedman,
Regan, yes.
Froman,
Roman, yes.
Galloway,
Galloway, yes.
Goldstein,
Goldstein, yes.
Grant. Grant, yes. Gupta,
Chapman, yes.
James,
James, yes.
Joyce,
Joyce, yes.
I'm sorry,
Sorry.
remote, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, I should have had you marked out, I'm sorry.
That's okay. If you get called in your remote, then your answer is Joyce remote. Sorry.
Okay, so just for the record, that's not counted. Kay,
Yes.
Canal,
Canal, yes.
Kettering. Kettering, Lamoury,
Lamoury, yes.
Lerner,
Lerner, yes.
Mahoney,
Mahoney, yes.
Mahoney, yes. McHugh, Meltzer,
Meltzer, yes.
Myhock, Bon Jovi,
yes.
yes. Moore,
More, yes.
Star, Star, Jimmy Sung,
Yes.
Vera Sung.
Vera Sung, yes.
Oh, it's so loud. Townley,
Yes.
Weinstock, not here, C,
Z, yes.
thank you, Zelter.
Zelter, yes.
Okay, going back up. Amoruso,
Yes.
all right,
Awesome. Moving along. 4951 Chamber, nope, that was included with the first one. 225 Liberty for the liquor license, 275 Church, 32 Cedar, 70 Pines are all, liquor. And every single one of them will have a note on there about the street seats and the sidewalks.
Right. How about I call the question?
All right, Mark has a hand up.
Oh, never mind.
So, I will say, we
We
call
had a few, that was supposed to, submit stipulations that were notarized. Were there any that didn't?
Two of them, for 275 First Street and 275 Liberty Street.
So we didn't receive the notarized stipulation.
Not yet, but they're going to be notarized.
So those would be, tabled, they should receive it.
I'm okay with that.
And notify SLA, about that, so they don't vote on it. And applicant.
So, Mark, is your motion to table 275 Church and, is it 275 Church, right? And 225 Liberty, correct?
Yes, and, for the record, they were given explicit instructions on what to do. And that they needed to have that here before a full board meeting. So, it wasn't ambiguous, instructions, and they were given clear instructions. We needed it to vote on.
I don't know. Yep, go ahead.
This question might be answered by that, but those stipulations, those are the limitations and conditions that they complied with
If
it?
they agreed to that they're gonna close at a certain time, that they're gonna close their windows, that their garbage can be picked up, and all those things.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, and one of the whereases says this signed and notarized stipulation, so that's not true.
So that's why for
Yeah.
225 and 275, a motion was made to table the.
Except 275 Church,
Second,
the
yeah.
Bumbo place,
Yeah.
they were at the executive board meeting. They came in person.
But they didn't sign the
But they didn't sign
paper.
the stipulation.
There was something, but why? They read not probably because you added the stuff about the seating.
No, they didn't.
It has not been received yet.
yeah.
So
That's why.
Procedurally, the office is part of the guidelines that when the stipulation sheet is elaborated and voted on in committee, the establishment must then sign, notarize and sign the stipulations and send it back to us. When we're in receipt of it, then we know that they've essentially enacted them. And, in the past, establishments that have not notarized and signed the stipulation sheet have been, either delayed or the board has believed that they're not doing it on purpose, voted down. But in this case, Mark is recommended tabling until next month because it sounds like they're working on it and they just need time.
So we'll check with the SLA to make sure their hearing is not prior to August,
Yeah.
our August meeting.
Or if it is, have it, ask to have it, deferred
Exactly.
They haven't complied with
Yep.
it.
So
So,
Patrick,
Seconding the motion.
yes, I would.
Patrick is seconding, all in favor? And vote up, or any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so those motions to table those two is passed, which now puts us back to the following ones, which is 32 Cedar, 70 Pine. Those two. I'm gonna call them together. If anybody has any questions, let me know.
Where's the Chamber Street one?
We just missed it.
This is new business.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so without any, without saying, oh,
Even if they have signed the stipulation, the stipulation that they signed did not include anything about the street phase and sidewalk.
yeah,
But Liberty 275 Church should take it
So-
as a motion.
well, 32 Cedar and 70 Pine, we're gonna double check, because I suspect, didn't we send them the sticks with the streets and the sidewalks?
Not stipulating.
But we,
32 Cedar Street, we agreed that there wouldn't, he wouldn't be able to apply for a sidewalk phase, like, nature of the narrow sidewalks and whatnot.
That's a
So
question.
they, the applicant said that they wouldn't apply for, they wouldn't, go for the city's open restaurant program.
okay,
You need to do a just in case.
so you have to,
Change their mind.
So you have to-
Self-certification.
if they have said it already that they do not intend to, and have referred that to the community board, it has to go in the resolution. It can't not go in.
You mean the sidewalk cafe, you mean?
Yeah, they,
There are no cafes.
well, but,
No, but that's a question on the application.
right,
True, but if you update it, there is no such thing as a street cafe at this time. That's what
We asked them if they ever plan to open one.
The law,
This cafe has to go with consumer.
right.
yeah.
Right. So Betty's point is that it has to be harmonious with the current law. Sidewalk cafe is now a deprecated term that is no longer in effect because the Department of Consumer Affairs, Worker Protection is no longer overseeing the issuance of permits for sidewalk cafes. And now that's moved wholly over to the Department of Transportation.
But we asked both. We asked if they planned on participating in open restaurants, or if they ever planned, not just now, but ever planned on applying for a sidewalk cafe. And the answer was no.
So under both parts of the outdoor dining program, open restaurants and sidewalk dining, they said no. And so we'll make sure that the resolution reflects that.
And that reflects the street as well as sidewalks. I know none of these do both.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so,
Because they can self-certify and renewals aren't being done and as far as I know.
all right, well, we'll get to that. So, but for 32 Cedar, we can put the language in because they've already affirmed at the meeting that they were done. So that will be a friendly amendment, whereas that goes in there and therefore be resolved. Okay, for 70 Pine, did we have the same conversations with them during licensing?
Yeah, but that one's in a lobby, I believe, right? Isn't that the one that's in the lobby?
Yeah.
Or is it on the lobby floor?
Yeah.
So they don't have access to outside or anything?
Yes,
Why not? Yes, they
They
do.
do.
Yes,
Look
They
at
do.
Noble.
They do.
You know, I mean, I'm talking about what the guy said. We did talk about going upstairs, higher floors. There was some outside access that we were concerned about. But on the lobby, he said, no, they don't have that.
So then we need to put in here, he affirmed as a friendly amendment that he would not be seeking outdoor ground level space. And that needs to go in here as well. Okay, so with those two friendly amendments each, does anybody have?
You remember that, Mark?
questions?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. Yes, yes.
Great. If not,
Full question.
I second that.
Take them together?
You have to take a look at that. Yep. All in favor? Are there any noes? Any abstentions? Any refusals? Motion passes. Think we got it? Love that. All right, so that puts us to equity questions. Everybody's, you've already heard the hybrid meeting and chair training, so we're good with that. We went over some equity questions to start a dialogue that the chairs and co-chairs are going to be having in committees for the next couple months. Lucy and I are working on a set of questions and links to send to people for the full board for discussions. and that's what we went over in executive, and that's my report. With that, moving on. All right, that brings us to land use.
Land use.
Patrick, take it away.
Everybody good if I sit here? You can hear me?
Yeah.
All right. First up, we tackled the health and fitness citywide zoning text amendment, in the month of June. We got a presentation and held our charter mandated public hearing. And I talked to you a little bit about this at the end of last month. This is an effort to sort of update what, the city views as an antiquated, set of rules around, gyms and spas that dated back to the 1970s when people were concerned about illegal sex and other things that might be going on in there. It's proven to be a little bit onerous for small businesses over the years. So the city's made an effort to update those rules. The proposal, just to quickly recap, it's a proposed text amendment that would remove a PSA special permit requirement. And instead it would add certain uses, basically gyms and spas, and licensed massage parlors that would be allowed as of right in certain zoning districts. So basically, when it comes to gyms and spas under 10,000 square feet, those would be permitted as of right in all commercial and manufacturing districts. For gyms that are, and spas that are over 10,000 square feet, so what they're calling larger fitness facilities, those will be permitted as of right in, you really want to know, C2, C4, C5, C6, et cetera, a number of different commercial and manufacturing type of districts specifically designated. There is a component of this for what they call high intensity uses. So those are really, those are gyms with big heavy weights, boxing classes and other things where there's a lot of noise and a lot of vibration. Those will be subject to an additional noise attenuation requirement, which an applicant must verify with a report filed with the Department of Buildings before a certificate of occupancy will be issued. And that report has to be by a licensed sound engineer, attesting that the vibrations and noise within that space will not violate the city's noise code. When it comes to massage parlors, the proposed text amendment would categorize licensed massage parlors as ambulatory healthcare facilities and basically allow them as part of one of the use groups. I say licensed because when it comes to seedy massage parlors, those are unlicensed anyway, and so those wouldn't qualify under the rules to begin with. You know, we had some concerns, and we went back over this at our land use meeting about the current mechanism and what we might be losing as a community board. Currently, we get all of these applications and review them completely as part of what they're called PCE, or Physical Cultural Establishment applications for a variance to the Board of Zoning and Appeals, Board of Standards and Appeals. That can be onerous, but we still found some use from a quality of life perspective, particularly when you have gyms and spas where there are mixed use buildings and you have residential neighbors nearby where there may be some noise issues. And we've seen those over the years. So we had some concerns about letting the entirety of the review process go. So the compromise we came up with, and it's here in the resolution, is a yes with the condition that community boards be given notification and an opportunity to invite the applicant in to discuss if it is identified as a problem site. And a request that no permit or certificate of occupancy be given to the applicant until we've had a chance to have that discussion. That's the resolution. Any questions?
Call the question.
I second it.
Wait. No, that's fine.
First question, it's, both of these, there was one, no, two opposed vote in each one. What happened there? Why was there? Reason.
I don't remember why we.
I think it was me.
All right. The other.
All right, don't worry, doesn't matter.
The reason why this thing should be as of right is, we talked about this before. is, these yoga places and the likes, is the ground floor space is like dead space. They black out the windows a lot of times, because they don't want to see the people working out and this kind of thing. So it just becomes like almost a place that's not rented in a way. So that's one reason to really oppose it as well. I mean, I wish we could fix things about that, but.
So people go market.
Take that consideration. That corner. Black out.
I think, so if you have a site where that's an issue and we get notification of that, that's a place where you can register that kind of an objection. At least that's what we're calling for. We'd be able to register our objection on a site-by-site basis or application basis. But we don't want to have to sit there and review each of these. What we found, Mark, was a lot of times smaller gyms were opening even in violation of the BSA permit. They were coming to us after the fact. For a while, we're like, how can you be doing that? And then we realized that, you know, their application has been sitting with the Department of Buildings or whomever for 8-9 months, and it's killing their business. So we're trying to balance the two.
Sure.
But to your point, if you find one that, you know, meets that concern, certainly identify it as you would any other quality of life concern for the office, and hopefully we can deal with it that way.
There's a couple of, I'll let you know.
Thanks. Other questions? Seeing none, are there any questions? I guess, but are we, there we go.
I second it.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? Recusals or abstentions? All right. Up next is 250 Water Street. We talked, of course, last month about the applicant's presentation and the public hearing that we held in June. We had the applicant back in July to answer some questions, talk to us a little bit more about the proposal. And it was really an opportunity for the committee members to go around and you know, express some concerns or questions that they may have. So I'm not going to belabor going over the proposal again. I think we're all really familiar with it after multiple meetings. Diana, if we could just fast forward, maybe showing the building envelope. So this, on the left is what was originally proposed. On the right is what would still be there, even with the Landmarks Preservation Commission reductions in height. Still, some committee members did feel it was a very bulky building, they included. And there are some, here, let's go to the proposed land use action. This is a complicated land use application, to say the least. I think some folks with quite a bit of history have pointed out it's the most complicated they've ever seen. Certainly in my time on the board, I've not seen anything quite like this. It's that doesn't necessarily make it bad, of course. It is an application where each of these land use actions are interconnected to effectively create a contiguous parcel from which the applicant can transfer certain amount of air rights that they believe they're entitled to buy or option from the city, from the EDC, over to 250 Water Street. That process in and of itself was a big concern for a number of the committee members. One of the benefits from that disposition of the air rights under the proposal is that the funds generated from that are supposed to go to support the South Street Seaport Museum. That's one of the big benefits that the applicant touts about the project. But when we dug down into it a little bit, it became clear that there is certainly no writing which requires this to happen. It's really left to the EDC to figure out how this is going to go, how they're going to value those air rights, whether they're even going to dispose of them in a public way. Created a whole host of concerns. And as our chair pointed out in questioning this issue, you know, we had before us, you may remember, a couple of years ago, a concession scheme through EDC where along the DMAP streets and Fulton Street, EDC was creating an effort and a fund to effectively license or give concessions to some uses in those outdoor spaces, and the funds would then go to help fund the South Street Seaport Museum. That was, what, 2 years ago? A year and a half ago?
May 2019, we passed a resolution. It was to be effective immediately. Saul Sherrod said on the call, it was roughly about $10,000 a month. And Jonathan Bulworth in the room acknowledged that they have not seen any of that funding.
So, one might say, well, it's all COVID, where, maybe they get a pass on that, but a lot of that was pre-COVID. So again, there were just a number of concerns about that piece of the proposal. Other committee members had concerns just about the mass and the bulk of the building and the very blanket violation of the community board's many years of work in preserving the 120-foot height limit, which has, I think, correctly been pointed out, is something that the community board and other members and constituencies in the community worked so hard, even before my time in the community, to have in place. So with that, we did have a resolution. Bless you. We had some language that was proposed and put on the screen. We spent a bulk of our time going over the language of the proposed resolution or potential resolution. I will say that I think the committee anguished over almost every single word that was put out there. So to one of the speakers in the public session earlier who said that this was some predetermined resolution that it was offered by a single member, I dispute that completely. It was something that we worked on organically, and certainly everyone had input on every word of it. You see in your packet the resolution that we ultimately passed, which is a no, flat out no, with a number of additional concerns. Since we went over that language, we got a little bit more information and color, and we also, Diana, I'm going to put you on the spot in a moment. We worked through it again a little bit more, went back to the application itself to just double check some factual stuff and really sort of clean it up from an objectivity perspective, not changing any of the tone, not changing any of the conclusions or any of the sense of the committee that was in that resolution and that we worked so hard to pass. But we do have a proposed edited version of that, which is just a little bit cleaner. And I understand, Diana, you want to, I guess, put that up and present that. And I will say that we've gone through that with Paul and with Tammy too, to make sure that we've captured everything that we wanted to capture from the original proposed wording.
Also, Patrick, I think you were copied on some of the replies that came from some of the questions, because again, we asked for information. We asked for information to come to us before the land use meeting. That did not necessarily happen. We had more information come after the land use meeting, which was, I mean, there's only so many ways I can say not fair to the public process and transparency here, but we did get information back on the differences in what the community board was told and in terms of the process from the letters, what the controller's letter has said, all of the public information that's been out there. We did receive some information that came after the land use meeting. Which
I think by and large, we did make an effort to reference that in the edited version. And I apologize. I don't know, did that go out to the entire community board or do we have?
It went out in the newsletter. Yeah.
Okay, great.
I just want to announce for all the people joining us remotely, if you go to live.mcb1.nyc, you'll find there's a link to all the resolutions that are being discussed. So if you're remote, you can still read through everything.
Great.
So the version on there? No, the original, whatever is voted on is online.
So we see that edited version up there, and hopefully folks have had a chance to look at that. So with that, I just want to point out, we overwhelmingly passed this resolution. I think there was one in opposition to the point that Mark asked earlier. The reason for that opposition, I recall, was not stated. So I'm going to go around the room with questions. Which I know you were first, and then Mariama, and then Mark, you had your hand up as well, and then we're going to crisscross. But Mariama, please.
Just very quick, I just wanted to understand what a no could possibly mean. So this is a no to community board one's recommendation for your ULUC, but there are several other entities that are recommending that it does go through ULUC, it does pass. So what does it mean that we're saying no if they just proceed?
Right, fair question. So this is about the process and where we are in the process. So with any ULURP application, it comes to the community board, usually for a 60-day review period. Sometimes there are exceptions, including when we get them in and we have to contemplate over August. It means that once we're done, it goes to the borough president for a period of review. Once the borough president has a chance to weigh in and issue a resolution or however she cites her decision, it then goes to the city council. City council will weigh in on it, and then ultimately it goes to the mayor. That's the short version of it. So those other entities that have to still consider it, our opinion, whether it's a yes with conditions, no with conditions, or a flat out no, which is the case here, it's one step in that process. But those other entities, while we've heard that they support something or don't support something, a council member of the borough president, that's still not determined. I guess minds could be changed. But the way it's supposed to work is that our advisory opinion comes first.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mitch?
Based on what Mariana just said, in case, one of the high-ranking Howard Hughes officials in the public session, when asked about, no, not when asked, said that there'd be about 80 affordable units.
I think it's 7.
Right, but he said 80.
He
So
said up
if
to-
if he's,
up to-
if he's
up to.
pumping,
He said up to, it's a percentage of the square footage.
okay, so I would like to put 80, because in case we don't get, like in case it goes through against our wishes, I would at least like to try to get what he said on record. He said, but he didn't say up to, he said about.
I will tell you, we're guided by whatever is in the application, because it is a function of their floor plate and their square footage, however they divvy up those individual pieces.
And
I will also say,
it was almost 70.
No, I'm saying what he
No,
said.
on
He
the-
said about 80, he didn't say up to 80. I'm just saying, so he was puffing, so I want to try to hold it to that puff.
It's in the environment.
Okay.
I also want to point out, I will say, just
that's
in
good.
terms of the sense of the committee, that this was one where there was a feeling that we shouldn't even talk about compromise positions because it's such a hard no.
Yeah.
So I just relaying that's what the committee was thinking. Mark, I think you're next, and then I'm gonna hop around.
And then Rosa.
I know you say in the first, therefore be resolved. Jack Cuny, one opposes, I just think you should, just even one sentence, the last, just end it with the be it further resolved that at the very end, Manhattan Community Board one strongly opposing to rezoning applications at 250 Water Street, all the reasons stated above. Just so it kind of
That's
sums
clear.
up there. Let's just end with what.
So this is where I might start to get lost if we're gonna go into the wording of the resolution, which is fine. Are you working from the Diana edited version or from the version that was handed out?
I'm the one that was a.
Yeah, either way, I think the point still follows. And if it's a reference to opposition for the reasons stated above, I think that's a very fair.
Yeah.
Sure.
What is this,
No
an
problem.
email?
And it makes it clear what we're voting on.
No problem.
What we're saying. So,
So,
I,
hold on, hold on.
Want me to read it?
No, what I want is any of the edits that have been made that are on the Diana edited version that we're working off of currently need to be gone over with the board before we continue discussion. Because what's in the packet is what was distributed to public. What
Right.
we're talking about now is
Yeah.
the Diana edits.
Let's a fair point. Let's take a pause on the questions, guys. Sorry, and ask Diana to walk us through.
I'm gonna go through and summarize the areas that I added. I was really careful not to change too much of the content, like Patrick said, because specific language was voted on in committee. I edited for clarity and to establish a contextual narrative. A lot of what was voted on is in the therefore portion. Most of what I added is in the whereases. So I'm gonna walk through and summarize those things, and then, at the end, you can let me know if you have any questions or need clarification.
Diana, could you just move all the way over
Yes.
to one side there, just so we can read it?
There's no good way to do that.
It's also on the other screen for folks.
So here, we made the previous version made reference to the LPC bill, and I added a portion. I'm sorry?
it's not on.
The second whereas. This is the second whereas. So I added a portion referencing our December and March 2021 adopted resolutions urging to reject the application for the 250 Water Street proposed development.
I can start for you.
Oh, yeah, okay, thank you. Can you go to the second page? All right, second page first, whereas, and if you don't have this version, you won't be able to reference it.
Yeah,
So I
you can't.
apologize for that. But I added a portion, and this was discussed at the land use committee meeting. In 2014, the Seaport Working Group outlined as one of its 8 guiding principles, building heights and views, encouraging the transfer of development rights to incentivize lower buildings and public open space in the immediate vicinity of the South Street Seaport Historic District in conformance with the design objectives of the 1998 Urban Renewal Plan area. And then scroll to the bottom of that page. I added a whereas noting the city's reliance on private developers in the South Street Seaport and the pattern of failure. And then the last whereas on that page, CB1 has great concerns over how EDC has historically managed city assets in Lower Manhattan. There have been missed opportunities to generate affordable housing and provide community facilities and amenities with the disposition of various properties. Next page.
Actually, Diana, could you do me a favor? Instead of various properties, we could just list the last 3. I mean, as evidenced by 4951 Chambers.
Right.
And others.
Okay, I added these next 4 whereases.
Can you read them all out?
Yes. In December 2019, and Patrick referenced this earlier, CB1 voted on a resolution regarding a proposed Small Business Services Economic Development Corporation concession agreement via the New York City Franchise and Concession Review Committee for DMAP pedestrian streets in the historic South Street Seaport District, where EDC represented to CB1 that the funds would be restricted so that they could not be spent outside of the historic South Street Seaport District, and that in coordination with the Manhattan Borough President's Office and CB1, the revenue would be used to contribute back to the character of the South Street Seaport, specifically for improving maritime history, boat maintenance, etc. To date, no funds generated by this concession agreement have been used for such purposes, and the Seaport Museum has represented that they have not received any funding via this agreement. Next, whereas regarding the transfer of development rights from Pier 17, the applicant has represented that an open procurement process is not required, and that since the development rights are within HHC's leasehold, HHC is entitled to exclusive use of them. However, a January 2020 letter from EDC to the New York City Comptroller's Office states that if the city were to consent to the transfer of development rights from Pier 17 and the Tin Building sites, the development rights would first need to be alienated from HHC's leasehold through negotiation and then disposed of through public procurement process. And next, whereas, when asked to comment on this discrepancy, EDC reported that upon further review by the City Law Department and EDC, it was determined that a competitive process would not be warranted because most of the development rights associated with Pier 17 are included in HHC's lease, and therefore would not be available for use by others until 2072. And I added the whereas following that, since HHC's first activities in the South Street Seaport, CB1 has made repeated requests for the developer to provide a master plan for its properties throughout the entirety of the South Street Seaport area. It puts the community at an inherent disadvantage to review segmented piecemeal applications in a vacuum without the contextual understanding of broader plans for the area. This is exacerbated by the fact that the community has not received sufficient information nor had sufficient time for review or meaningful discussion regarding the pending Seaport Disposition ULURP/Marketplace lease renewal, which directly impacts the areas currently under consideration. Next page. I added a section reflecting the comments we heard during our public hearing, our live public hearing on June 14th, the written testimony that we've collected, and the petitions that we have received. It reads, CB1 held a public hearing on this application during the June 14th, 2021 Land Use Zoning and Economic Development Committee meeting with 64 speakers, 67 in support, 30 in opposition, and 3 undecided. CB1 also collected over 90 written comments on this application, 73 opposed, 26 in favor, and 1% undecided. I noticed a typo here. It should be in favor.
and undecided. Additionally, CB1 has received one petition in opposition, which has gathered 1,004 signatures, and a second petition in opposition with 9,840 signatures. Next page. Okay, I added, this is now the therefore portion where we're outlining the reasons that it's a full and strong no. So this is in reference of a whereas that I included earlier. This proposal is not in line with the guiding principles developed by the Seaport Working Group, particularly as it relates to building heights and density. And the next bullet point, CB1 is disturbed by the discrepancy and lack of transparency surrounding whether or not the transfer of development rights from Pier 17 would require an open bidding process. And we object to the city's opaque processes surrounding this question, as well as the conflicting explanations we've received. This suggests, and this is goes into language that was adopted at committee. This suggests that the applicant and the city have created a workaround to sell the purported public assets known as air rights to the applicant in a single source transaction without an RFP to solicit competitive bids. Okay, scroll down. I amended some of this language as it relates to the DMAP streets. It had previously stated that inclusion in the large-scale general development area of the DMAP streets would privatize them. That's inaccurate. It doesn't give greater control. It doesn't privatize them. Inclusion in the large-scale general development area is being used to connect the two sites, but the management of the street itself will remain as it is now. It does still state that these DMAP streets are city-owned, intended to serve the public interest, and should not be used as a tool to boost a private developer's profits and give them greater control over this important street grid. CB1 maintains that the city should continue to control use of these important streets as they indicated in 2019 with the FCRC plan to activate these streets and make them even more accessible with additional recreation, cultural, and educational public events. I would recommend further refining that language that states that they give greater control by inclusion in the large-scale general development area, because that's not accurate. And that's also referenced in the next bullet point, but would also increase HHC's control over yet more of the seaport area by subsuming the city DMAP streets under the large-scale general development area. So that's still to be edited, but I didn't want to just remove it without running it by the full board first.
Can I just have a clarifying question on that? So is it accurate to say that the primary objection to the inclusion of these DMAP streets into the LSGD is that it's really just an artifice to allow the transfer of the air rights? And that is not a commonsensical view of the street.
Yeah, that's the main reason. I understand the hesitancy in adding a public DMAP streets in something called the large-scale general development area. And just to clarify, there aren't any existing development rights on the DMAP portions right now. So
Wasn't the concern, and thanks for, I think we don't want to refute what, is fact, and of course the attorney tonight points this out. By the way, was that attorney looking at this version or the one that we had?
The applicant received both versions as adopted in committee and with my
So the
recommendation.
testimony that he was beginning to give tonight was based on, do you think this one, which one he was looking at? 'Cause
I would imagine both. The first references a privatization of the streets. This version still references that it gives them more control, which it doesn't.
Okay,
And that's why we're recommending changes to better clarify that
right,
section.
we don't want this resolution dismissed in any way by anybody to say that anything's inaccurate in it, and so I'm glad that we're looking into it. But I thought the understanding of the streets was also that this allowance of a lease would assume, let's say that Howard Hughes owns the restaurant, that they can decide how many cafes they can put out on the streets. In other words, it's all impermanent. Right, you can't have permanent structures on the streets, but they would then be controlling the oversight of this and who gets to put things on the streets. I think that was the point that was a little of concern in the committee, as I recall.
Yeah, EDC, it doesn't change the structure now, whereby EDC has the review process through the FCRC where they, and HHC is the garden bar through that process. So EDC maintains that kind of oversight over street activity in the DMAP portions.
I would say
The same EDC that has basically given Howard Hughes every.
Yes, that same EDC.
Given into every request that Howard Hughes has made. So to really say that Howard Hughes will not benefit from this privatization just because EDC says they won't control it, I think.
No, I'm not
Well,
disputing
I
that.
think
the
you should
specific language
I
of,
don't think you should eliminate all of it. Maybe you could soften it slightly. But I think we are still concerned that they could have undue influence by having more control over a larger portion of the city.
yeah, and I think that's an appropriate
We
amendment,
will-
but to say that it gives them greater control
so-
is.
We will make sure it's factually accurate, but to your point, Alice, Attorney Karnofsky's characterization of how we feel about it is just too bad.
Exactly. But, and so I just want to make sure for the record, what Paul is saying, is about the community feel on it, and that is reflected appropriately. And so Diana, if we're gonna vote on that, is there a way for you and Lucian to type that up there so people can see exactly what the wording change would be?
Lucian? Can you put that edit in?
Yeah, I mean, I can't do it. This is a PDF. But we can.
Put a text box next to it.
I did want to make also clear on the record, and you sort of alluded to it, that we absolutely did review the answers to the questions that Howard Hughes
Yeah,
provided
thank you for that.
prior to writing that resolution.
Yeah, that was another unfair characterization.
There's somebody back there.
Wait, hang on. So
Oh, that was the end of my additions
So
and major changes.
before we go on with questions and maybe other friendly amendments or nits to the resolution, I think what would make sense, now, I think most of this reflects the sense of the committee and is just the proper edits, more in a friendly sense. I do think it would be a little bit better, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable if we formally amended it by a motion to amend and adopt this, then work from this version. So with that, I'd move to amend. Jeff seconded it.
Second.
Great. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Excellent.
Why I didn't hear your whole.
Sure. I said that I think we should just to formally adopt this, not by friendly amendment.
This will be our final edition.
This is what we're gonna work from for the next few minutes.
Right.
And working toward our final edition,
Right.
not the old one.
This,
Now on our way.
this and whatever we do to
Correct.
this will be our,
Right.
and so I would like to know what we're leaving out from the current.
I think you're adding two.
Yeah, I don't think we're leaving anything.
Two, I didn't take out, and if I changed anything, it's something that I went
Your
over now.
opinion, your addition to, does it change the reflection of,
No, and I was very careful not to do that. I added things that were discussed in the land use meeting that weren't included yet, like the information on the FCRC agreement.
you know that.
Okay.
So with that, let's go on with questions about the application and then this version of the resolution. I'm gonna go with Eric first. Mark, you've had one. I'll come back to
I
you.
just wanted to know, do I need to reiterate that, or was that accepted, that amendment?
That friendly amendment was already accepted,
Okay.
so it'll apply to this version, which is, and thanks for bringing it up at that time, because then that reminded me with Tammy that we needed to have the right version.
No, need the line.
I just want to know if you were familiar with the litigation that's
We are.
happening right now.
People talk a little loud.
Is there a stay of the application pending
Don't know.
in the lawsuit?
Don't know. I mean, there's others here who can talk about it, but that's not a consideration for our committee. Whether an independent interest group is litigating or not, really is not for us to think about one way or the other. There is, I think, a reference to
There
the
is.
fact of it,
There's a.
though we were careful not to comment on the litigation, or put a thumb on it one way or another.
120
Since my
feet.
back is to you, I'm
Yeah.
last to be heard. No, other people have their hand up and come back.
I will. Yeah.
120 feet. that.
Oh, wait, sorry.
I saw-
Yeah, sure.
The 120 feet, is that a regulation? Is that-
It's the zoning, which was adopted in 2003 or one?
C6-2A zoning has a maximum
In
of
here,
120
it
foot.
doesn't list the size that they're actually asking for. It just says about 3 times taller.
345 is what they're asking for, so it is roughly 3 times,
We can specify
Yeah,
the exact
fine.
height.
whatever you want.
If that's.
But I wanted to say that's the current, because if they do revise this proposal between now and the time that they go even all the way up to the mayor, then, you know, we want to make sure that we've afforded.
I guess my question is, how are they getting around that? If it's already a zoning regulation of 120 and they're asking for 347, what exception is there to allow for it?
This application is for that exception.
Transfer
Among
of
other
air rights is the biggest component of this.
From 120.
Yeah. So they're effectively applying for an exception to that.
Okay.
Among a bunch of other land use actions that sort of all tie together.
Perfect.
They're asking to break the law, period.
Can I just,
Yeah.
give a 2-minute history for the new members of how the
Hey,
zoning
that's fair.
works? Excuse me, let me explain how the zoning works in the
Sure, yeah,
Seaport, because
yeah.
it's important. So, in the Seaport, there's always been a way to move air rights out of the district so that owners of properties are not denied the right to, you know, what their site is worth. So the way it's always worked is there are designated sites that give off property rights, and then there are receiving sites. All the receiving sites are outside the district, outside the historic district, so it's been done in a way to let the owners move the property rights. And those funds are then supposed to go to the museum to help the museum.
Okay.
So basically, what is now happening is Howard Hughes is proposing to create for the first time ever a receiving site in the historic district,
Okay.
which allows for that huge building that's so out of scale. So that's what's before us. And then the other thing that's very unusual about this is the demapping of the streets. Just one more point of edification for new members. Generally speaking, property rights are allowed to be transferred from an adjacent site onto your site. So they could combine the lots. Basically, what these guys are trying to do, and maybe we could put up that slide that shows that, is demap streets so that the property rights located at Pier 17 can be moved about 3 blocks over as though they were next door.
Okay.
So it's just a very unusual thing that even, as I said at the meeting, some representatives from city planning said this sort of reminded him of a gerrymandered district in Texas.
Sure. Okay. Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Paul. So Jeff and then Mr. Lerner.
I'm sort of gonna pick up on something that Paul said there, and that is, you know, zoning exists for a reason. And there was a lot of work put into zoning this particular area for these particular heights. And I know a lot of the community members that have spoken in favor of the project point to the benefits that will accrue, whether it's affordable housing or funding of the Seaport Museum, or getting rid of a parking lot. But that's not the alternative. The parking lot is there because various property owners have chosen not to build what they're allowed to build there. And so that's kind of a false dichotomy. And I think it's just a bad public policy that in order to get affordable housing or a Seaport Museum, you have to sell off your zoning conditions to get those things. You should be able to have both. And I think it's really, I don't blame Howard Hughes as much as I blame the city. I mean, if the city is prepared to give these things away to a developer who comes up with a comprehensible plan, shame on the city. And we're the city, and we're saying, no, that's not the way to do business. You know, it's not an anti-Howard Hughes, it's a bad public policy issue, I think.
And part of the
Really well
problem that we're having is that the loopholes that were created that exist within the law are being taken advantage of by a company that is looking to do what any company work for its own best benefit. The problem that we're having is that the city isn't supporting the community.
Right.
And the city has told us different things over the course of our requests for information that turn out not to be true because they're having separate and divergent conversations with the applicant. So the problem lies here, problems that we have with EDC that has chosen to, the city has given the power to choose to negotiate to enable them to find a loophole around what is set up to protect the community assets.
All right. Joe.
Paul, does this new resolution meet your requirements?
Yeah, I think it's great. I'm very happy. It basically,
But it's not Paul's requirement. Remember, Joe, this isn't about.
no, I
one man.
did,
This is
I
about-
did help draft the original version.
All right, let's see if others have questions. Colin had his hand up.
Yeah, they just, I'm not sure how to say this. One of the reasons why we have so many good and talented people, or one of the great things I love about the board is that we have so many great and talented people who know these issues inside and out. And there are people I trust on certain issues, and there are people who I listen to. There's nothing wrong in my mind with relying on certain people's information on these things, speaking specifically about Paul.
Thank you.
And I take a little blame about some of the stuff that's been said tonight because of something I said, but I trust you, Paul, and you know this issue, and other people in the room know other issues better than I do. So there's absolutely nothing wrong, nothing to be ashamed about for saying, I rely on someone's opinion or knowledge, when it's considerably more than mine. So I don't think we should run away from any of these things that people are accusing us of.
No, but I think that we also speak as a community. This
Right.
is, people, I got very upset when applicants are targeting applicants and applicant lobbyists and paid supporters are targeting board members, both on social media and at meetings about where they live and what their motivations would be. We are all here as members of the public. We all have a right to be here, no matter where you live, what you do. I found it completely distasteful and that's it.
Yeah, I've actually worked very hard to make sure that we have a credible committee with, an objective group. And so I take umbrage with those things too.
And
as Tammy
one
said.
last thought, when I'm done, because I'm pretty too far at this point, but many of you know I run a public affairs firm. One of the things we do is land use battles for the wind farms in the middle of nowhere. And one thing we do is we hand scripts to people when we want somebody to go our way. And that's, sorry, I hate to say, that's exactly what happened tonight. We saw the public affairs, process, handing scripts to businesses, to what they call grass tops influencers. And what we saw on the other side of that were people who were actually concerned and impacted directly by it. And that's, as a public affairs professional, that's what I'm scared of, is organic support, or sorry, organic opposition to something. And so for all those who rose up organically against this, the bravo to you, because no one was paying you, no one was getting you a script. You did this because this is something you feel strongly about, and that's what I'm motivated by.
Okay, other questions on the resolution of the application? There we go, Wendy?
So, I actually think the resolution and all the facts make perfect sense. But I'm of the, if we know EDC is going to do it anyway, when we write this, does that mean that any of our future opinions about how things should be done is kind of ignored in the future? It's kind of like the liquor license. We always get told it's liquor license discussion that we oppose with conditions, or, there's, because if you flat oppose it, then you don't have any say in the future. And so, I'm just playing devil's advocate here because,
It's always a risk. It's something that we actually talked about for a fair amount of time in considering this resolution. The committee's overwhelming sense was that we need to put our foot down and make this one a firm now. Even at that risk, we think there are other ways to have those conversations in the future if needed. But on a principled matter, this is just not the one to make any concessions. That's what we felt. Madam Chair.
I didn't see in the resolution one of the things that's, that sticks in my craw, the 4 floors. Because we did ask the applicant, about 4 doors, that was changed, there is no 4 door. It's general access, but all of the affordable housing is limited to several floors, so it's, you're getting off on floors 4 to 8, you're in affordable housing. You're getting off on 9 to whatever, you're in luxury.
Right, but remember, this isn't the final buildup. This is just a Euler proposal, just to
Correct.
get them through.
But they still
Who knows what
said,
they're gonna do?
they still said that they would, they still said that that was the way they wanted to do it. And
Well, they said they couldn't tell you now because they haven't got the floor
No.
plans laid out.
He couldn't tell us how many there would be,
Right,
but
right,
he
we know.
guaranteed that they
They
would
do
all be
affordable.
on the same floors.
Right, I know we talked about that in the committee, but we didn't visit with that issue in the resolution. So I don't know, maybe that's something you can take into the borough board or take
That
to
goes to my question.
the,
What?
You know, I think it goes to the, if it's getting built anyway, we have a whole list of concerns. And this is reading, you know, you can't build it because of the following, which I, you know, completely
Right.
support. I mean, there's a million reasons why this is convoluted.
Right.
But there's this other feeling is that, you know, we're doing it anyway, and then we want to have a say about things that we're very concerned about.
Right.
So I'm just, I mean, to Tammy's point, do we put all of our concerns, if it gets built anyway, in this resolution? Or is that just, you know,
Make a
we
million.
take our chances, is what you're saying?
at this point, the resolution is what the committee has passed. So if there's a sense so overwhelming that we want to somehow amend it, I think you'd have to do it another way. I couldn't even accept the friendly amendment one.
I think we rely on our elected officials
Yeah.
who are sort of supporting the project on the condition that the things that we care about are actually included in there. And whether it's, even if it's not in the resolution, I can't believe a city council person and borough president wouldn't back those things.
And because even, it's unrelated, but at the
Yeah.
environmental meeting, it came up, we asked a question about, you know, is there anything in writing to support, you know, if we're gonna have it anyway, or how does the money get put to the museum?
Right.
And you know, the answer is very, your point is, you know, we're not at that stage, or, you know, that's not the place we are, you know, this kind of thing. So,
Sure,
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, but that would ultimately result in a different vote.
absolutely.
It would be a no with conditions, which again, I
We
mean,
don't want to do.
the board can do whatever the board wants to do. There's no time the committee did.
Like devil's advocate, because
I
wasn't in
appreciate
the-
I guess if I may,
Yes,
Just
please,
say-
Christine.
go back and forth. I think that what Wendy's saying is valid, but this resolution needs to pass because this is talking about ULR process, which is now. Once that's done and finished, we'll know what's done, at which point then we should say, okay, we don't want this, but if we're gonna have it, this is what we want. So I think we do have a place later.
Well, and I think pursuant to the conversation we had at the meeting, which Wendy, what happened was if we had a choice of things to change, I think there'd be about 20 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the problem started to become, none of they've been discussed and told, thank you, no, thank you. So at that point, do you list 20 of them? Knowing that this is also an EDC issue where it's all about funding the museum, and yet they had a mechanism that they haven't already done, which they promised us. So there's so many things that were wrong that.
Absolutely agree with it. I agree with everything. I'm just asking the question.
But I think the
Yeah.
next step is
It's a
next
fair question.
next month,
It's
do
a-
it.
It's a good point. Usually we do
Follow up.
have those sort of conditions because more often than not, we come down either a yes with conditions or a no with conditions. And
Yeah.
you saw even on the health club
Yeah,
or the health and fitness thing, we couldn't even give that a full yes without some sort of condition.
Right.
but I think maybe
There's an opportunity in environmental as well.
to take this
Yeah.
up next. I mean, to take the next level,
Paul, and then I want to recognize the time and
Yeah.
hopefully we can move on.
because I gotta do the same thing you're doing with my resolution.
Okay, I won't be long. Just a few points. Yes, of course, there are needs in the Seaport District for amenities and things, but I think the people there consider the integrity of the historic district that this community board went on record for as the most important issue to fight for. And we're willing to forsake some of those things, certainly for now, in order to try to prevent something like that from occurring. So that's number one. Number two, I just want to reiterate, after what Colin said, that all those remarks that were obviously drafted, because they all said the same thing, and they talked about how they're going to save the museum and how they're going to do affordable housing. let's be clear. Nobody's been more supportive of the museum over the years than Community Board One and this community. So for them to try to suggest that we're not on the side of the museum is hogwash. We have put forward, and people in the Seaport Coalition devoted hours and hours, and this board supported that resolution a few months ago in identifying alternative means to raise monies for the museum that we are convinced would work. Not to mention, as I said at the land use meeting, that we had a meeting here with Tammy, myself, and a couple of others, where we brought in a developer after the borough president challenged us to do so. And we brought him in, and he said, yes, I'd be interested. Tell me how to go about it. Did anyone pursue it? No, they did not. So who's to blame for that? And the elected officials, very honestly, they were the ones who could have picked up the ball and done more than they did. Okay, I know you don't want to say that, but I will. Okay, finally, let me just say that just last night, Community Board 2 reviewed the Soho NoHo zoning. And as a lot of you might have seen and heard, they overwhelmingly passed a resolution under very similar circumstances, just saying a flat no. I would appeal to this board to do the same thing tonight. This community has gone on record very clearly that they don't want this, that this is inappropriate. This board has been on record over and over saying that. I think I think we should try to get a near unanimous vote as close to it to send a message. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And on that very important note, Paul, question. All in favor of the resolution, which is a flat no?
As amended.
As amended.
As
Thank you.
amended, flat no.
Okay. Anyone opposed?
Wait, Michael, look in the corner there. Michael and Betty?
Frank Cora opposed. Yeah, you have to call the opposal, just.
Okay.
Any recusals?
Yes, back here.
County recused.
Don't.
Any abstentions?
James abstained.
Okay. Mr. Secretary, do you have that recorded?
We're good on it.
While he finishes that, in the interest of time, I'm gonna move on. So the third thing we talked about was actually the first thing we talked about at our land use meeting for a long time. We got an opening presentation and actually held our charter mandated public hearing on the open restaurants citywide zoning text amendment, which is in effect a proposal to make permanent the open restaurants program that the city has done on an emergency basis during COVID. It would include sidewalk cafes and roadway cafes. It's an attempt to balance all the needs of the streets and the sidewalk according to the city presenters. And as I said, it's really just an extension of what we saw during the temporary times in COVID. There's a couple of really interesting statistics in the slides. If we go forward a couple, Diana, you see pre-COVID, there were about a little over 1,000 sidewalk cafes and only 25 street seats. I think that's citywide. But under the city's open streets proposal, it's a little later on, it shows you some of the, at least in Community Board 1, just how many, I think there were tens of thousands citywide of applications for outdoor seating. So it's really been a robust and I think a pretty successful program. Just to walk you through the presentation, there are three main actions that are needed to facilitate this program in the future. I'll just ask Diana to put those up on the screen and let folks read through them really quickly. We are going to revisit this again because this was certified at a point when we would have to make a decision in August. It rolls over until September. So we're going to revisit this again at our committee meeting in September, where the committee members will have a chance to ask questions on the proposal. We had a handful of public speakers speak in our public hearing, a good mix of for and against, including the local restaurant owner who was in favor of the program. and others who expressed concerns about giveaways of, these spaces as public space. Some folks expressed concerns about, the sanitation issues around using those spaces and how people can keep them clean and how to keep garbage off the sidewalk. So you see the timeline, and Tammy mentioned this in her chair's report. The temporary program will continue until the permanent program is put into place. They're looking really in the beginning part of 2023 to start transitioning to the permanent process. I promise I'll get into the weeds a little bit more next month, and hopefully we should have a resolution for the full board to vote on in time for our 90-day certification. And then there's a few statistics here at the end if anybody cares. But again, this is a community district one context. But I think I'll end it there and see if anybody has any questions.
Actually, I'm gonna ask for all questions to be emailed to the office.
Thank you.
Because Councilmember Chin has asked CD 1, 2, and 3 to collate questions, to send them to her because they are the largest amount of backlash has come from CDs 1, 2, and 3.
Well, uptown, the streets are wider.
Right, and they have different rules. I mean, this all sounds like an easy thing.
Keep your gunpowder dry.
Yeah, I imagine people who are interested in this issue come to land use in September. I kind of expect this one to be a little bit fiery, to be honest with you.
I'm
Yeah.
looking to hold.
Yeah.
This should be, a combined meeting with quality of life and licensing.
Yeah.
Happy to invite both.
Yeah.
Three committees should.
Everybody, I'm perfectly fine. but
Happy to
again,
invite both. It's a
everybody
citywide zoning
starts
text
to
amendment, so
send
it's a land use.
questions to the office.
I mean, you can share, but it should be, I think, a combined meeting with the votes of all the committee.
Because it all
So,
draft.
two things. One is,
Does
make
that
sure
happen?
that, oh,
That'll happen.
No, listen, so
so make sure that all the questions, it specifically go to Diana, and you can CC me. But Diana's the one who's putting all these together. The other thing is that, remember, if you're not on a committee, you can still join remotely and participate. The quorum requirement for being in person is only the members of the committee that is voting or can vote on that night. So I do encourage you all to go to other committees when you're available, remotely from your home, from wherever, from your car, space station, anywhere you want to be. But you have the flexibility.
You know, this almost something like it should be a town hall thing. I think it's that.
Lauren, we can discuss that in August. We have time.
All right.
All right, let's move along. Apologies.
All I can say really.
Well, I got, thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alice.
Well, with the understanding that the site will likely be remediated at some point and potentially developed, we at the Environmental Protection Committee had to take on that reality factor and did not just simply ignore it. So we did review the brownfield cleanup program, we did a work action plan, and we also, of course, looked at the drafted the environmental impact statement. So the brownfield cleanup program, remedial work action plan, Laura Dodds, the engineer and independent consultant from Excel Environmental Resources, who we have on board, helped us. There were many concerns and helpful comments from last night that are being provided to Laura. And she has asked via Diana to have all people's comments put to her as she's doing the work now to continue and finish up her review of our WAP. As many of you aware, the RWAP, the Remedial Work Action Plan, was issued on June 23rd, which was unfortunately the day the public schools closed. So the community board has reached out to the Department of Environmental Conservation to ask for a 2-month extension for review and received a 1-month extension until September 10th. There was a consensus around the table last night by all involved that the CB's request for the full 2-month extension for the comment period should be honored, as it's critical that the school community be able to fully participate. This would be in keeping with the citizen participation plan, which allows the public meeting hosted by DEC. Ideally, this would happen at the Tex Lip School this fall. Deputy Borough President Matthew Washington kindly attended EPC meeting last night and promised to reach out to DEC's team to see if another good employees can be added on. However, at this point, September 10th is the deadline. The draft remedial action work plan summary findings are as follows. It's a very large document which can be accessed on the web. For those interested, the key attachments are air monitoring and construction health and safety. The original remedial investigation found three main impacts: impacts to soil related to historic fill with various concentrations of metals, storage tanks of petroleum products, concerns associated with the site of the historic thermometer factory. The RWPA is proposed to include the following measures: decommissioning and removal of underground storage tanks, site-wide excavation and off-site removal of impacted soil to approximately 15 feet below grade, which is amounting to approximately 22,000 cubic yards of fill. Hotspot excavation to remove sources of groundwater contamination, and if necessary, in situ treatment following source removal, collection and analysis of soil samples to document post-remediation soil quality. The extent of the excavation will be guided by necessary depth to achieve development and to address the different work types that were considered. And they were called tracks. Basically a kind of work that will be done, and track 2 was selected as it actually goes beyond the typical track requirements, removing more soil that's typically needed. And these are all things that Laura Dodge felt were good. The remedial design investigation plan will be prepared, and it is something that Laura Dodge had advised early on, and it will be done, so she's pleased about that. Laura underlined the importance of the following part as part of the design investigation plan: close oversight and coordination in all activities for remediation to assure the protection of human health and the environment, test pits to provide a better understanding of air quality, CAMP, community air monitoring plan, systems health and safety provisions. Laura was pleased that the air quality controls and the action plan are the same as were evidenced in the remedial investigation. In terms of general oversight, and she stressed the importance of the downwind monitor. 4, the assurance of plans clarify the dedicated technician's responsibility and location as a monitor, and the assurance that of following the best management practices with regard of mercury impacted soil, which included examples, tarps over open portions of the site, minimizing potential exposure, and control of dust on the site with water misting, keeping soil wet, tracking of truck wheels. Lastly, Laura was encouraged that the soil vapor has not and is not expected to see elevated levels of mercury, and stated that overall the AWP was a very comprehensive plan, though she is clear that there is much more to review and that will come. And of course, we'll update everyone as she presents her findings, which of course will be published. So anybody who has thoughts that, in addition to what was stated last night, which we've already reported, please go ahead and send those to Diana. Okay, the second report is on the DEIS. Charlie Fields, the environmental consultant from AKRF, presented this DEIS, which indicates projected effects and impacts as confirmed by the city's environmental quality review.
I'm sorry. I had it on mute. I had the whole thing on mute. I'm sorry.
Speaking of noise, impacts.
Push volume down.
That's easy. The community board will provide final comments on this for next month. So please, again, for Diana, send the comments to Diana to be incorporated. And this isn't small. This information, remember, city planning commissioners and city council members will read our review, not just the resolution on land use, but on the ES. So please, really, it's laborious to go through that, but it's online and it's not that terrible. It's the areas of interest to, and then comment on them and make sure that we receive them. So next slide. As a reminder, the building has been reduced in height and massing, and hence sometime now matches the LPC's approvals for massing, which will be noted in the final EIS, FEIS, along with other land use concerns allegedly being mitigated, like shadows, historic resource and contextual impacts. Next slide. Here are the list of unavoidable significant adverse impacts. And by the way, these are slides taken from the deck that was provided last night that again will be available to everybody so you can go through it. So the unavoidable significant adverse impacts, open space, shadows, historic and cultural resources, traffic, pedestrians, and construction, traffic and noise. And I'm going to quote from their report. To the extent practicable, mitigation has been proposed for these identified significant adverse impacts. However, in some instances, no practical mitigation has been identified to fully mitigate the significant adverse impacts. And there are no reasonable alternatives to the proposed project that would meet the purpose and need, eliminate potential impacts, and not cause other or similar significant adverse impacts. Okay, so some won't be mitigated is the long and short of it. Shadows, next slide. So, for example, shadows are looked at, and there are many, many slides of, how this building will affect all the different public spaces and other buildings in the neighborhood. But only one space, which is in the Southbridge area, is noted as significantly adversely impacted. But other resources which were not addressed as adversely impacted will be considerably impacted, like Pearl Street and Imagination Playgrounds and the Peck-Slip Play Street. No mitigation was noted to my knowledge at that site other than the LPC required building size reduction. And there was no specific mention of the schools, which was of great concern. And it was stated that any mitigation measures that might be considered for Southbridge would actually be paid for by HHC, as I recall. Next slide. So this was the historic and cultural resource analysis. And as it's stated here, because again of the reduction of the building's envelope, most of the contextual impacts have been ameliorated or removed, I should say, and that will be indicated in the FEIS. They do state that there was an examination of archaeological resources, and they already assumed that there won't be any archaeological impacts. But the LPC landmarks is clear and is noted in the document that they anticipate there may indeed be archaeological artifacts uncovered at the site. And LPC has asked, and HHC has agreed to both test and monitor the site. So it's not just monitoring, it's testing it. And I just want you to remember that along Water Street in the 80s, there were some incredible artifacts found during this period. For example, the 17th century, which is probably slave ships coming in and out of this port. So it is of major interest to keep track of the archaeology of the site. Okay, next slide, number 12. So transportation analysis and pedestrian analysis, no impact was found. Hotspot was noted in the Tin Building at Beekman, and that seemed to be inadequately reviewed. Some members felt. Next. Traffic fill. We go this on your own time, probably better than tonight. Tammy, she's going to have her head fall off from nodding. Downstream, next slide. Okay, construction, next slide. Okay, so this one's worth, the construction analysis would take a quick look. The proposed project construction, it says it would result in significant adverse impacts, noise, open space, and traffic, which were reviewed. Next slide. Noise, really big one. A lot of people mentioned it. It's clearly, very pronounced. And next slide, there are some of the mitigation measures for air quality. Again, we learned that there will be no impact if all of these items that you see under emissions reduction measures are used. We can only hope. Next slide. Construction protection plan was identified. Next slide. Sustainability measures. The original document mentioned a commitment to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 80%, but here we're at 15. It's a little hard that the original document says that there'll be gold lead and solar panels, but this one is indicating silver. So we're asking that there's more support for and much more detail in the next iteration of sentence in the final to really understand what they're talking about. It needs to be sustainability measures in building. Next slide. I think that's slide. That's it. There's no indication of a stormwater management system yet on review and why the basement remains entirely for cars. We brought up the potential for storm retention, water retention in the basement we had talked about. And so we're hoping to see just more sustainability, more resiliency in the final EIS, if at all possible. The last thing, just to make some few points that were brought up, it was clear last night that the needs of the neighboring schools, obviously Peck Slip and Blue School, must be much better addressed in the FEIS and specifically addressed. Excellent points were raised about construction noise, play space use, air quality inside and outside schools. And generally, there just needs to be a lot more public engagement on the protection plan. There needs to be much more information in the FEIS on how precisely the building will exceed the sustainability standards of its meeting, and how the surrounding urban environment can be made more green, resilient, and how critically needed open space can be included in the next iteration. We're told that all the promised mediations will be put in a restrictive declaration, which HJC would sign before city planning approval would be allowed. And the execution of the declaration would become part of property record. And I would say that the community boards want to see that list of promised mediations. And I think that's about it.
No.
Thank you.
Just one quick question. So how are you going to communicate all these points that you had at the end?
Right.
You have no resolution.
We are going to do like we did at the last for the Governor's Island, where there'll be a chair letter that will be used as, along with the resolution. So there'll be a
The
letter.
resolution is coming before the comment period.
Sorry.
Not a version of the letter.
That works so well.
The resolution.
In an ideal world, the comment
We have
period
time.
is extended. That is the first goal. We don't want to do the resolution now because we're hoping that the comment period pursuant to the request by the public education system and the principals is pushed
So you're
back.
talking brownfield, I'm talking DEIS.
Right, yeah, right. So, yeah, two separate things, absolutely. Comment period for that, September 10th, maybe October 10th, if we get lucky
Right.
and get what we want. And so that public meeting should definitely happen. Separate to that is the DEIS comments. Look at, it's time. We don't meet in August, so our thought was, let's get the land use resolution out. It's the day before the meeting. We just felt that we should give this more time, allow for more people to comment, right? It was yesterday, the environmental protection committee meeting. So the idea of producing a letter that would be stapled, as it were, to the land use resolution to all the city planning commissioners. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, because I've been getting some questions from people on how do we get our comments in on this?
Better approach, but that's what the idea is, and then that letter would be circulated. to everyone.
Okay, so they have a couple weeks to get to.
Yes, yes, yeah.
From all the things that you named, you said it couldn't be, that you listed, that you said it couldn't be mitigated with regard to this noise and the dust and such. I don't know how easy or difficult it would be, but I would hope that we could go back to whatever was done on those sites, what we called at the time, to, what was it, B and C? Again, where the Whole Foods is.
25-230.
But it's directly across the street. I mean, so this is not like the first time that this is happening, that a school is going to be impacted by the tower. And the downtown community center also, went up, and we had to put in, they were literally like attached by a temporary walkway and bridge that we had to, all of these things were things that we said were necessary in order to make it safe and healthy for the kids. So we don't have to reinvent it, I would hope.
Yeah, no, they are very well aware.
When I was hearing there's no mitigation, there's nobody, I'm like, what in the world?
There's no plan on their part yet.
No.
It doesn't,
They
well,
have some plans, and they are in the environmental impact statement. I can go over them all. There is a
I see.
community protection plan.
Okay.
A lot of this was brought up, and a lot of it is accounted for. But certain things won't be mitigated, like the shadows, Southbridge, or, but this is certainly noise. Some air quality issues are going to be mitigated, and many people
Okay.
are talking about that. But you're absolutely right that the schools and those concerns directly with children in that area And those buildings have got to be better addressed and not there. And
Yeah.
that's something we were asking for, and will be part of this list.
Schools and the portion.
So the
Place sports, the playground, the teachers, everybody. Listen,
Okay, no.
listen, I'm gonna ask that whatever questions you have, because of the time, based on where we are right now, please email Diana and Alice and come to the committee meeting and get it done there. I apologize because you know that the health and safety and welfare of the students and the staff there are a major priority, but it is 9:42.
Yeah, can I just say, I mean, it's a school night for, most of us tomorrow,
Thank
and
you.
it's 10 o'clock.
Well, that's why I'm saying.
Can we just do point, and debate in committees?
Battery Park City.
Thank you. All right, so I will go quick. I'm going to focus on the resolution. So Essential Workers Monument. So, on June 23rd, the governor announced that he was placing the Essential Workers Monument in Battery Park City by September 6, 2021 to honor the essential workers. Going through it all, we know that in that month, a lot has happened, a month since then, all right? We've heard from labor leaders that were part of the governor's advisory group for the monument that represent some of the same groups that publicly stated that they disagreed with the timing and appropriateness of New York City's Hometown Heroes Parade as recognition. And the Uniform Firefighters Association criticized having a parade while its members continue to face danger from the coronavirus. The union's president, Andrew Ansborough, said that a New York City firefighter with COVID-related pneumonia was fighting for his life in an ICU and said it was too soon to make the decision about any kind of monuments or tributes. Several municipal unions, including those who also represent emergency medical workers, played a crucial role in the city's response, similarly decided not to participate in the Hometown Heroes Parade.
Yeah, because we read it.
Yeah.
You've read it. You don't want to, before we go there, I do have some friendly amendments because things have changed, okay? I know you want to rush, but I got stuff to talk
All right,
about
so
too.
what are your friendly amendments?
My friendly amendments are adding, and Lucian, I don't know if you have it on the screen or not, or you'd want to, but we want to add in a whereas for things that happened outside the meeting. After the meeting. July 7th was our meeting. We voted on the document that you all saw and reviewed. It was unanimous vote in support of it. Since then, we've gotten some tweets in about alternate sites. We've got Councilmember Drum's July 8th tweet saying the Essential Workers Memorial should be put in my district, Elmhurst Hospital. The epicenter of the epicenter is more appropriate.
So
Now-
just do
They're not in there.
Whereas that says, here are the following tweets from elected representatives.
I'm not finished yet, Tammy. I can say that, and I've got all these whereases. They're not in there because what was submitted, this is the procedural stuff. What you're looking at, Colin, is a,
You can't put things in after the committee votes on stuff.
that's why I'm
You can
making
only
a
do
friendly
friendly
amendment to add them now. So what
how
Colin is
many
looking
more
at was
Friendly amendments do you have?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then one, therefore be it resolved, just to add in.
Would it be better to do a summary of them?
I'm trying.
Okay, say that.
Thank you. All right, so yeah, the whereases for the tweets include Councilmember Drum, Representative Jerry Nadler, also Robert Holden, all saying about where the monument should be placed, not in Battery Park City, but in a place where they were impacted by COVID. Okay, we all agree with that. Those were pretty simple. And then, in the therefore, there'll be, about 1, 2, 3. And then therefore be it resolved that is the. Just combobulated. There's one that says Community Board 1 strongly objects to the process. That one stays. Then Community Board 1 thanks the Battery Park City Authority and Governor Cuomo for recognizing the express will of the community and its elected officials by agreeing not to put the monument in Rockefeller Park, this is the new part, by the Irish Hunger Memorial or on the volleyball court esplanade, as well as for delaying the opening date.
Problem is, you don't have a guarantee that it's not going in the other 2 locations. The commission will determine that. based on what was just announced.
I thought that they said that what they said in our meetings afterwards, that it was not going in either of those two places. I think all three of those locations are off the table.
Not as far as I know.
And then leave it at Rockefeller Park. I mean, that's not
Do
what
you
I
want to have
understood.
Gail in there? Because didn't Andrew say that she was the one that asked the governor to do that? Were you thanking
Gail
the
wrote a
people?
letter, yes, that's true, so
Were you
yes, thank
thanking
you.
the people?
I'm thanking, well, the authority and Governor Cuomo for changing their minds, that's what my thanking was. We could add in a whereas saying because it wasn't just Gail, it was also Yulene, it was also, say again, it was Nadler, I mentioned Nadler, Kavanaugh, Chin, Christopher Marte showed up and spoke on our behalf. And of course, the Battery Park City Neighborhoods Association, which I want to thank them for their amazing grassroots stepping up and getting involved, and that needs to be noted. It's all in here.
Alice made a motion to accept the amendments.
Perfect. Anybody
Second.
seconded it? I can second. Then let's call the question. Everybody in favor?
There to thank the governor, is that correct?
I'm thanking the governor for changing his mind.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Are there any opposed? Any recused? Mark, are you opposed?
I'm opposed.
You need to call the opposal.
I'm so opposed.
Thank you.
Because of thanking the governor?
Abstain.
Worse thing to me, it's embarrassing for me.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can we do, Tricia, are you online for youth and ed? Thank you very much, Christine.
You're welcome.
Yes, I'm here.
Tricia, you've got 4 minutes. 4 minutes.
4 minutes. Okay, I actually don't even need 4, I don't think, but I will do my best. We had, Tammy had let everybody know at the beginning of the meeting what went on our call with the School Construction Authority. To say it's a disappointment is an understatement after a year's worth of work. I am midway through a follow-up letter to her, Andrea Bender being her, at the School Construction Authority, and I am alerting Lorraine Grillo's replacement, and we'll be working with Tammy to loop a lot of other people into that communication, so that we can push on and try to find some solutions, which could include, a separate location if they can't fit one there. As you know, we have 3 full-size gyms, over 9, which will be now 10 schools, which obviously is problematic. The thing that was most problematic about her response is that they said that it is the new norm because they can't find spaces to build schools that are going to be able to provide a footprint to be able to put full-size gyms. This, to me, to accept that, and think that creating other spaces, they talked about dance spaces, creative spaces for exercise and working out, is to just completely not understand what competitive sports are all about. So I am, going to stay very focused on that. Next up is the opening of the New Amsterdam branch of our library. Amber came and gave a really lovely presentation about some programming that they're going to be offering at the library. It's going to be fantastic, actually. So definitely check it out, everybody. Also, we talked about high school admissions again. The borough president has sent around a grievance form. She is going to be taking this on and giving us lots of support about finding an acceptable offer. And that means acceptable to the family, not to the DOE. For our no offer families, in terms of high school admissions, we had, as you saw last month, a significant percentage of our kids not getting any offers. So, so that's going around to our schools, and hopefully combined with some attrition that generally happens this time of year, we'll be able to find a spot for all our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Tricia. All right, moving along. Quality of life, Pat.
Mariama. Okay.
Mariama.
So I mentioned some of this earlier. We had a wonderful presentation of 9/11 Health and Compensation Forum is what we were calling it. We were visited by a nurse, Nurse Rhonda of the CDC, NIOSH, as well as Stephanie, the Deputy Special Master of the Victims Compensation Fund. So we got accurate information, whereas some of us are on the side, have been receiving information from some of the lawyers in the neighborhood and different things, and they are not telling people the right thing, and they're causing like an overrun on the health program, people running in to get like certified for things that they don't need to be doing. So to clarify all of that, we had them come in. They each did a wonderful presentation. If you did not get to see it and you are in any way interested in 9/11 health and or compensation, I suggest that you go to our website and, get that link to that meeting or ask Lucian or, whatever you need to do to get that and see it. So there's a deadline, July 29th, which is only 2 days from now, specifically for people. So it's going to be the minority of people, but, even a minority of people who are eligible for this, it amounts to maybe a couple hundred people. So we're still talking a lot of money in totality. If you have a family member that has passed away of a 9/11 related condition or disease, then the list is available online as to what is a covered condition. If you believe your family member to have died of one of these covered conditions and they were never registered for the Victims Compensation Fund, you have to register by the 29th. You should not let that scare you, because registering only means basically going online to their website and filling out, it's a very small, application, your name, address, phone numbers, they can reach you and stuff like that. You do not have to file a claim at that time. You don't have to ever file a claim. But if you want to register, you need to do it. Also, if you were certified by the health program, so two separate entities, right? The World Trade Center health program, you were certified with a condition, even if it was just, allergies, asthma, whatever. And you say, well, that's not that big of a deal. I feel okay. I'm not sick. You have to register now, because God forbid you ever do get sick. You have difficulty, to say the least, in attempting to file a claim if you do not register right now by the deadline. That deadline was already the federal government being generous in the authorization of the bill. So the Zajoga bill was first signed, and then it expired, first signed in like 2010, expired like 2016. We, a bunch of us had to go back and fight for reauthorization, successful. And at that time, when it was reauthorized, they said, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and grandfather everybody in, just the whole 9/11 community, anybody that was impacted is grandfathered in. But we can't let this go on to like February. So we still have a deadline, and that date is now upon us.
Do you have a VCF number? Does that mean you're registered?
You are registered, yes. But if you're not sure, it's just a matter of calling that number, that 885, call that number, ask them, am I registered? They'll take your name, your social security number, and tell you right there on the spot. It's, very, very fast.
I did it the other day online. They took all my information, they registered me in
Wonderful.
2 minutes.
I'm so glad you did it.
Yeah, I did it.
So if you're not registered for the health program,
Not the health program.
but as we said,
The health program is fine. The Victims Compensation Fund, even if you're not sick, you don't need to go to the health program, you have no plans of going to the health program now. You still should register, if you are a 9/11 survivor, for the Victims Compensation Fund now. Because the bill is authorized through 2090.
I know an email on this, I've seen it. Let's send it out tomorrow morning. to
Okay.
everybody. And let's post it.
And do it, seriously.
Okay.
It's not
And
just do it.
And just, say, last day, last change.
Okay.
So everybody.
thank you.
But I would just say,
So
if
so
you
it's
were
not.
here 9/11,
Yeah, it's not
you
conditional.
should register.
Exactly.
Right, if you were here, register. Even if you feel like the picture of health, The health and compensation bills are authorized through the year 2090. So there's a long way to go where, God forbid, something could happen that could change, and you're gonna want to be registered.
Okay, we have 2 resolutions left. Let's go to Paul and Waterfront.
Okay.
Can I get that report on WeWork?
COVID.
Go on, I mean, we just had a 15-minute environmental protection. report.
I forgot, I'm sorry.
Hey, guys.
I'll be brief on this one.
No, Mark, not you.
What are you doing?
Francis first.
Okay, 3 things. Number one, there's, if you want to have a home vaccine, you can go to, nyc.gov/home vaccine. And there's a form that will come up, and, 12 and older, you can have somebody come to your house and give you a vaccine at home. Okay, the mask update is obvious. We've all been bombarded every day, you know, in terms of the numbers and everything. People, please, Delta's here, mask up. I went to Whole Foods and people walking around with no mask. I went to Trader Joe's, no mask. What's wrong?
Well, it's the young people who are
Please,
getting.
mask up, people, it's here. And the last thing is, this, the governor and the mayor are definitely
Starting again.
well, kind of, anyway, because the mayor has decided that he wants to have a, sort of like a similar pass, you know,
Let's go.
yeah, a similar pass, that you can have to get services. Like the Excelsior Pass, he's gonna make one like for the city. So anyway, Gail is not happy about that, and she's trying to see if they could come together on that. So that, if you have not registered for the Excelsior Pass, I suggest that you go on the New York State website and navigate it and find out, and if you've been vaccinated, and fill it out, because it's a good thing to have.
That too is very quick.
I don't know what that is.
It's
an app?
It's an app that
From
you
the state.
download, yeah,
Mhm.
from the state, you know. and it's on your-
If you've been vaccinated,
Yeah.
you can download this app, you put in your name and the date of your second vaccine,
Vaccine.
and then it imports all of your
All your
information
information.
from when you had your shot. And then you don't need to walk around with the card to prove that you've been vaccinated. You can just go like this. My son
Sure.
went to Shea Stadium and they asked and he used that,
And
you
you
know.
put that app in the.
Everybody,
Yes.
yeah, put it on the newsletter.
Right.
It'll go on the newsletter.
Yeah.
So you
Your stuff will go out on Saturday in the newsletter.
Okay.
Send me an update.
All right, and we don't need
That's
to
it.
do the report on Beach Street. We can just pass that. It was a WeWork issue. We don't need to do it. It was a huge WeWork
Can I have at
party.
least 1 minute? Just to-
Give him 1 minute.
No, we don't need to. We've already had her come. She said she would take care of it. It was one location. I wrote her back and said, thank
Is
you
anything
for.
else on the agenda gonna be deferred other than that?
Yeah, we didn't do number 3. So that, I don't think we need to discuss it. Everybody knows there was a huge party with WeWork. It's not necessary.
All right.
Let's move on.
It's not even on the agenda.
It's 10 o'clock.
It's 10 o'clock.
It's 10 o'clock. We have 2 resolutions.
Oh, we have another hour.
No.
Are you ready?
Get it.
Okay, number one, well, number one really is, all right, we could do cultural, but we have you're gonna do the slides for me? Okay, but the slides are in different order. I think we have the Dwayne slides first.
Just in whatever order the slides are in.
Yeah, so let's do Dwayne first. Okay, let's keep going. Basically, it's very simple, straightforward. There's a look at the park. It's Duane Street between Hudson and Greenwich. It's a triangular park. It's been there since 1797. The proposal is to expand the park. Keep going. And that's just another view of the park. Next. Okay, let's go to the next one. I think it's clearer. One more, in fact. Okay, this is really the one you need to see. Okay, so this shows the 2 elements that we're voting to approve. Basically, the Friends of Duane Park are proposing with their architect Signe Nielsen to install a sidewalk along the southern edge of the park. Right now, it's just a parking lane. And number two is to expand the triangle up toward westward towards Greenwich. The point is, this triangle has changed shapes and sizes repeatedly over the years. It was shrunk in the 40s and 50s, and that's 1940s and 50s. We had a big egg, cheese, and butter district there, so they needed room for the trucks. Now we want to expand the park. The committee liked it, unanimous vote, resolution is before you.
Can we say now that if they expand it, we're not gonna allow City Bike to go there? We're always fighting about Duane Street. They have to make it bigger.
Did go on
That's the
record.
reason why we're doing it, is so City
So
Bike.
can we say like we're not, when they put a new sidewalk, we're not gonna allow City Bike to go on that new sidewalk? We can't do that?
We did ask them about that, and I think they did indicate that.
They were
It's,
already ready to do
you know,
that.
the city knows we don't want this, so.
That's why they want the sidewalk in park.
Right,
North
so
End,
that they-
to avoid that problem.
Right. No, I'm just, when they get it, and then it gets taken from them.
Well,
Defeats
that's
the
the
purpose.
whole nother-
So that's why I was asking.
Okay.
So you want to do them together?
That's why we're doing them together.
Okay, so the next one is the Cultural Museum of African Art. So the Cultural Museum of African Art is the creation of Eric Edwards, who has amassed a collection of over 3,000 artifacts of African art going back 4,000 years from 54 countries in Africa. Many consider this to be the most extensive collection of African artifacts in the world. 220 are currently on exhibit at their site and Bedford-Stuyvesant Restoration Corp. But that site is soon to undergo major reconstruction beginning in 2024. Bottom line is this organization is very interested in finding a home at 22 Reed Street, which is here in CB1. It's a site above the African burial ground. It's a building owned by the city. And they gave some good arguments why this would be a good match with the coming African Burial Ground Education Center. That's probably going to come our way. And the committee liked the idea and concept to create this synergistic relationship with the African Burial Ground and this organization. And while clearly they have work to do, and we did want to give them some support in concept. So that's the gist of the resolution.
Okay.
Okay, so
It's removed, I mean, I would just say, to say it's the greatest African-American collection, so they said, listen, do we know that? I don't know where that comes from, I might just take that out. And I also can't say that the world-renowned architect, and, I'm not sure he is, so unless you're
I agree.
completely
I
convinced of that.
actually use slightly different language. Many consider this to be the most extensive collection of African artifacts. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay?
But the other point, Paul, is that the whole point of the
You
African-American.
could just keep it. It's in there.
The whole point of the legislation, which I actually brought up to round table with Senator Schumer, was very interested in this. The legislation in support of the African American Burial Ground Museum expansion and education center was to have a lot of African history. It was basically the sister to the African American History Museum in Washington, D.C. And the idea here, I think that you're getting at least I'm sort of reading into it, is that 22 Reed Street would just be for this private African art collection, but could encompass
No.
the African American.
Yeah.
Which you was a.
We want to try to bring them together if we can. And let me just give a 30-second update since on that last item. It's starting in August and it's just two elements, bike lane and bulkhead. That didn't take long.
Okay, so we have one more resolution after this. This isn't all hands up. So taking those two resolutions together, because it was called and seconded, all in favor? Are there any no's? Any abstentions? Meltzer abstains from Dwayne Park. All right, any other abstentions? Any abstains from the African American? Any other abstentions? Any recusals? Motion's carried. Last one is a roll call for new business 124 Chamber Street.
Tammy, I just, one word that I think that you have it incorrect in here, not you personally.
Sure.
I think most, on the second page, the second whereas where it starts on July 22nd,
Yeah,
the second sentence, the tenants requested for shorter hours and the principal responded that they were likely to do a sound study and will install installation if affordable. That's the self-certification. Will install installation if tenants deem necessary, not if the owner says, well, there's too much noise, but I can't afford it. So I would just like to take out the word if affordable, because that's like self-certification, and put if deemed necessary by the tenants. Which is, I think, the spirit of that.
okay, I'm fine with that. That's the way that went in the meeting. Okay, with that.
Well, one of the, what happened at the meeting was that, the lawyer happened to be there, it's Karen Stan, and it was supposed to work out on the side.
This just kind of went like.
The tenant was supposed to be
Yeah.
satisfied on the
There's too much
side.
noise, but I
when they
can't
came
afford
back
it.
here.
All right,
Thank you.
everybody else good? Roll call, take us home.
Here we go.
Thank you.
Amoruso, Blake,
Yes, blank, yes.
Brown Kennedy,
Kennedy, yes.
Cameron,
Cameron, yes.
Cassell,
Cassell, yes.
Chang,
Yes.
It's going to soon.
Chapman,
Yes.
Mercudian. Mercudian. Foreman,
yes.
Kucha,
One second.
Kucha,
Oh.
He left.
Curtis,
Curtis, yes.
Flores,
Laura, yeah.
Flynn,
Flynn, yes.
You told him you couldn't have the.
Forsberg,
Forsberg, yes.
Francoeur,
Franker, yes.
Friedman,
Just say that he told him he couldn't have a sidewalk?
Froman,
Roman, yes.
Galloway,
Galloway, yes.
Chambers.
Goldstein,
Goldstein, yes.
Grant, yes. Gupta,
Yes.
James,
Yeah, I'm looking for where it says we told him he couldn't have a sidewalk, but I'm a yes.
I'll make sure it's there.
Kay, Canal,
Canal, yes.
Oh, so ugly, so American.
Lamboree,
What's right there?
Keep going.
Lerner, yes. Mahoney,
Abstain.
Meltzer,
Meltzer, yes.
Monjovi,
Montgomery, yes.
Moore,
Boy, yes. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Jimmy Stung,
Yes.
Vera Sung, Townley,
Yes.
Z, Zelter.
Zelter, yes.
Okay, so 29 in favor, 1 abstain.
Okay. Officially calling it 10:10. Before I call it adjourned, please, if we don't need to go over it at full board, try and do it in committee. We've got a lot of long stuff ahead of us, and I know none of us want to be here this late. On that note, 10:10, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, life, remember?
Yeah.